Very careful.
Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, August 15th. It is now 6:07 PM. Town Council meeting in Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. Jay, will you lead us in prayer, Jay?
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in a meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Amen.
Jay, will you lead us in the pledge of allegiance? Jason?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Messier.
Here.
Councilman Bourget,
Here.
Council Vice President Williamson,
Here.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
Quorum is declared. Consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the July 11th, 2023 regular town council meeting, the July 17th, 2023 special town council meeting, and cancellation of taxes in the amount of $5,053.66 as requested by the tax assessor.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Ordinances, second reading for amendment to the zoning ordinance for Assessor's Plat 2, Lot 51, from B Business to R8 Residential.
Move the ordinance.
Mr. Cronin?
For the
Second. I'm sorry, second. For the record, Councilman Messier recused himself.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thomas Cronin for the applicant. I've been here on several occasions and I don't want to bore the council, but this is the former firehouse in Harris, next to Bill's Pizza. We're asking to change the zone to R8 from business. It's 649 square feet in West Warwick, and the remainder 8,459 square feet is in Coventry. Simultaneously with our application here to the town of West Warwick, we're also making application to the town of Coventry for a use variance for that building so that it can be turned into 3 apartments, 2 bedrooms, a piece, and a storage area in the rear. There is a diagram which has been presented to the council, and we have appeared before this council for introduction, before the planning board for recommendation on July 10th, 2023, and here for first reading July 11th. So this is the second reading of this ordinance, and we ask that the zone be changed to R8. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
We all received that email. Any neighbor over there emailed the entire council with concerns for parking. And she sent us a lot of pictures. Majority of the pictures, I don't know what she was trying to indicate in them, but one of them is very obvious what she was indicating, in that there's at least 7 cars, could be 8 or 9, that are parked in front of the fire station, and all those spaces are going to be lost. But the concern is for her and the neighbors down there is, where's everybody going to park if that's going to be changed to residential and all those parking spaces are going to be taken? Because right now they all already have a hard time parking in front of their own house, having their driveways blocked, things along that line. Is there anything that's in the plans here for additional parking off of this?
So there is no additional parking available, Mr. Bourget, because of the proximity between Main Street and the river, right? One of the reasons for this application, is that the structure of this building, the structure of that parking area cannot be expanded. We're within the river buffer as it exists. So the existing building must be used, the existing parking area. So what we have proposed before this council and before planning board is that there are 9 spots to the northwest of the building, further away from Bill's Restaurant, that will be designated parking for these 3 apartments. So we have 9 parking spots on the plan where 6 are required. So in direct response to the email, I haven't seen the email or the pictures, Mr. Bourget, but the parking in front of the firehouse as it currently exists, the 2 large doors, that will be maintained in our plan. And those will continue to be spots.
Oh, they will
They
continue. all right.
will continue to be spots. I have a plan. I'd be happy to share with you. I don't know that everyone will be able to see it, but it was presented to the council at the initial application. If I'm happy to show it to you, you can comment on what you
If-
see.
I'll take you at your word. If you say
Sure.
that it's there, then
Sure.
how many spots are gonna remain?
So you're saying there are 9 spots going away from Bill's Pizza?
That's right.
On
On
the
the
far
far
side
side of
over
the
Yeah,
building.
okay.
This side of
And
the building.
let's see, I apologize. 1, 2,
Because they're not, they
seven
don't
spots in
exist.
front of the building.
7 spots. Okay.
They don't exist, not currently, do they?
They're not lined or defined parking spots currently. There is an area and people do park there, but these will be more defined and designated.
So there's no intent to use the space as we're facing the firehouse to the left, which is between the firehouse and Bill's Pizza.
That will remain parking for Bill's Pizza, as well as the spaces in front of the firehouse will be designated for the restaurant. It'll be, that's a great way of putting it. If you're facing the firehouses, the area to the right of the firehouse will be the apartment parking.
Okay.
So will you be able, I mean, I think a lot of these things can be wrapped up with communication. And since it's not done yet, you can only predict what could happen. And I don't blame, I read the email too, for having concern. All right, this is what's going to happen. What happens when I can't get into my driveway? What happens when my parents can't park in front of my house? Things like that are going to come up, which is a normal thing. Are you willing to work with the neighbors to make sure this doesn't happen? It's going to happen.
So let me just clarify a couple of things. I know I'm working on, I sent over to the traffic committee about the safety committee, about the parking there. This individual from 700 Main Street has shared, they do have 5 children. Some do need to be close to that door. So we're looking at, and I'm working with Al and everybody about having that, just like we did for, I forgot which ward it was in, but parking for 700 Main Street. Some of the pictures that you were sent, since Rhode Island Automotive closed and moved to Natick, now they're utilizing private property. And that's what some of the pictures were when you see it, like people, obviously, Bill's is doing phenomenal. Let's face it, right? They're doing a great business. It's great for West Warwick. Unfortunately, Bill's and the homeowner, the tenant that lives there has to go through the landlord to get things done. So when people are parking on private property, she has to inform her landlord to let them know so he can call and have it towed or whatever. So some of those pictures you saw, there was 3 vehicles and then while people are parking there, people are parking right up against the front lip of 700 Main. So I think it's on the next traffic commission for that to be discussed about the parking, so we can utilize, and I know that's one of our number one issues with garbage. It always gets skipped. Now, whether or not it's because people move the container, you put your containers out at 8 o'clock at night and somebody comes out and bills and decides to park near you and moves your container, next thing you know, the garbage might not get picked up, right? So these are the things that she has legitimate concerns. And I know she's brought it up to her landlord, and I know she's brought it up to me. I know she's talked to Jay. And she sent us all that email. And I just want to clarify, those pictures are people just parking where Rhode Island Automotive was. One thing I'll say is when Rhode Island Automotive left, we thought the Coventry side that was parked all the way down would empty out, and that's still filled up. So maybe it wasn't Coventry Automotive with all the cars per se, right? Maybe it's 4 or 5, but on the Coventry side of that, on like where Bill's Liquors and Harris and all, those apartments there don't have adequate parking for them. So they're parking across the street also and on the streets. So Phoenix is getting very full with parking all the way around. I'll be honest, I've had to walk from the old Hudson Cleaners to Bill's for dinner some nights. It's not a bad thing per se for businesses, but it's not a good thing for somebody who's living in that one West Warwick. That is the only West Warwick house that's affected. The other, right across the street's Coventry. So that's what throws.
So can we work with that, the tenant, make sure that doesn't happen?
Sure, we haven't previously, Mr. Lachai talked about, say, street signs or public safety signs. At planning, we talked more about clearly labeling the spots, whether they're for the restaurant or for the tenants, so that, those kind of, or not to block the driveways. But, sir, the owner's willing to, they run Bill's Pizza. They want that area to work.
Right.
So if we have to cooperate and make some street signage as well, I don't see any problem with that.
Should be an easy
It
fix.
seems to me like the crux of her email was that they were gonna lose that parking in front and have more tenants parking, taking up more spaces. But
Well, and again,
Yeah, it
it
doesn't
seems
sound
like,
like that's gonna
well, right
happen.
now
Plus,
it's
they're-
first come, first served down there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so
Tenants
if
can
the
have their
people
own
who are
places off
living
to the
there
side.
can't even get access because of first come, first served, it's tough,
Issue.
so it becomes an issue for, and I think there's 3 cars for tenants down there. First floor, I'm not sure. I think second floor has 2 vehicles. So, 3 cars for 2 units, and the only place they do have for parking, unfortunately, the only place they do have for parking for those 2 units is on the street. So, and if that gets taken, then it gets a little,
I assume that what will happen is the tenant, the new spots that will be defined for the people that live there, my guess is the Coventry police will be getting calls because there will be Bill's Pizza people parking there. That's my guess.
But
So,
absolutely, I think some additional signage is a great suggestion. And, we can incorporate that into our plan.
do you know where Coventry stands on this at this point, Tom?
Now, actually, the first hearing on this in Coventry is August 30th. I'll know more at that point, but it's been introduced to the town council and referred to planning, but actually, my first hearings was zoning on the 30th. So
Okay.
that's where I'm at with that.
and the other thing too, just want to make it clear, the initial, when they first bought this, the town had the opportunity to buy it also, us as West Warwick, because I was really pushing for us to move Station 2 off the end of Wakefield Street and make it safer down here. But at the time, we didn't have the money and so on and so forth. I think Jay, you and I were the only 2 on the council, right? So Bill's first initial thought was, and I kind of pushed back on the council a little bit because Bill's was going to actually move into the fire station, which would have made most of it Coventry revenue. That includes beer, food and tax, beverage tax, all that, and they were going to level the initial bills. So this is, I mean, Bill's brings in a lot of, that 1%, but we need to work with the neighbors and try to get both. We all probably frequent Bill's. I know I go down at least once a week, sometimes twice. I mean, we can also talk to the owner too, maybe have a meeting with the owner and the landlord and see what we can do to resolve some of those issues.
Sure. Agreed.
Any comment or public comment on this ordinance? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Okay,
Yes.
Mary Beth,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
thank you, Tom.
Second reading of ordinance 2023-19, amending section 5.3 use regulations, non-residential districts.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Move second out.
This is I'll move to put residents and bills in the zone. Plans.
You had questions last time about whether or not properties that would support businesses would be doomed to residential.
You just bring the
Speak
mic
into the
back.
mic.
You can bring it
Back
back.
up, yeah.
Doomed to residential.
Uh-huh.
If this is only going to be for single families, infill in buildings that already exist that have a vacant first floor. And from the ones that I have dealt with already, the spaces are very small. Probably would be only 1 bedroom if only, or an efficiency. And in the event that there would be 2 units on a first floor, they would have to go to zoning to get a special use permit. Anything larger than that, as far as housing goes, is not permitted. So anything that's big enough, and Jason and I talked today about a business, and maybe if it failed, would it result in maybe 100 units of housing? No, it's not going to happen. It would be reserved for another business use. So we're only talking about infill units so that we can get these vacant first floors on Main Street. It would help to improve the look of the Main Street so that, well, there wouldn't be anyone breaking into the units and, like what I would call bunking in there. So I can't, to me, it's a non-issue. It's a simple thing. And then we have a few lots in the B zone that are really undersized lots that are not going to support anything that's large, but could be redeveloped into a small residential unit instead of being a lot where garbage is collected. Where people would just dump their mattresses or something like that. So that's the purpose of having that change in the B zone. And predominantly around the mills, even though they're B zones, it's housing. That's what exists. That's the settlement pattern that's there already. So we're not going to take any big pieces of property and just let them build housing on it. It's just for small development there.
Like I said, when you and I spoke about this before the first meeting, I was fully in support of it. When Mr. Villa came up and raised those certain issues, and I asked you, because I'm thinking it's not gonna be that many. How many are there? And you said a lot. That's what
There are.
made me really get concerned that we're gonna lose more business area and absorb more residential area. And that's not
But
something. that-
nothing is a large lot. They're all very small pieces interspersed in the district.
So even if a business was there, it's not gonna be a huge business anyway. It's gonna be.
No, it might be a home-based business maybe,
Mhm.
but I don't see anyone coming in with any large-scale business. And a lot of it, other than the main street, is off the beaten path.
And Marilyn, when you say the mills all around it, West Warwick was always known as a mill home area because we had such a thriving mill industry way back in the day, right? Actually up to the 90s in certain areas. So those homes were designed for employees.
They were already there.
Yeah, they were designed for employees, but like Mark said, though, like if we're talking and, do you know roughly on like Main Street and off beaten path of where we would stand, how many lots?
I probably discussed 4 to 7 individual lots and then about 6 on the main street so far.
So when you say 4 to 7 total, and then that's including the
There's
6 on
probably-
Main Street?
At the most, probably 15 at
Yeah.
this point.
And I know Jay has a couple in his ward. Actually,
Actually, more are in his ward.
yeah,
than
well,
anyone's
I know
ward.
down in the Crompton section, people have come to us in the past and said, hey, this was a business. It worked in the 60s. It worked in the 70s. Now I'm looking as, it's not going to work in 2023. For the mom and pop stuff and it was right across from Breads and stuff, if I remember correctly. And they were like, well, I don't see why I can't put an apartment. I kind of understood what they were saying, but it was definitely, he made it clear, look at it now, it was an eyesore, has big open glass windows and where he wanted to spruce it up and do it when he was denied. I know years ago, we had one mill house off of Brayton Street, they were denied a couple of times. And now it's done and it looks beautiful. It cleaned up the neighborhood. All the neighbors there said, this is a mill redistrict and it's a dump, the building's gonna fall down. So it does help and clean up the area when you work up certain things. But
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, like Mark said, what's the after effect of, business versus residential? So
I don't think the impact is going to be that great, but I think you'll notice it in, like you said, the aesthetics and the appearance on the main street and get some of those old abandoned metal signs hanging off of buildings and no one's there for a business. Those sorts of things will have to improve the appearance of your main street.
any other questions for Marilyn? Any public comment on this ordinance? State your name and address for the record.
Thank you. I'm Steve St. Ange. I don't recognize faces here, except maybe Jay, we've spoken, but I own 95 Manchester Street, which is in your district, and I own a mill house, 1717, 1719 Main Street, which are side by side. I've been in West Warwick for over 30 years. I ran a company out of the 95 Manchester Street called Rhode Island Kitchen and Bath. Some of you may remember the kitchen and bath on the corner. I bought that building from A.J. Brown, Arthur Brown, who bought it from the market, Barrett's Market, which is prior to that. Barrett's Market, to your point, great business, but there was angled parking in the front of that building. If you remember, anybody remembers that. And there were maybe 5 or 7 parking spaces across the front as well as parking in the back. The town or the state in their infinite wisdom decided to make that the whole intersection safer, created a brick structure and curbing there if you've driven up into that intersection. And unfortunately now there's no more parking on the street. So what we have is very limited parking behind the building. My business grew to the point where we could no longer sustain it there, which is when I purchased 1717, 1719 next door to expand in both. Floods came, a whole nother long story, but we weren't able to expand in that area and rebuild. So we had to leave town with that business. But unfortunately, since that time, and that was after 19 years of being in business in that location, the first floor has generally been vacant in 95 Manchester Street. We've tried several different businesses to get in there, and none of them have made it. And most recently, we had someone who wanted the business to move there, but we were denied by the sewer commission because they claimed that we needed a separate sewer and a brand new manhole in the street, which was going to be probably $100,000 investment for somebody who was willing to pay maybe $1,500 a month. So tell me how long it would take to pay that back. So to your point, there's lots of small businesses like this that are out there that are no longer viable locations for business. So we're not losing business. There's no business there now. And the taxes are being paid, taxes are current and have been every single year. However, I take money out of my pocket for that building to pay the town of West Warwick, and I've done that for probably 15 years, trying to make that a viable business, and I can't do it anymore. So it really needs to have a residential unit in there. And we're not talking about 3 bedrooms or anything else. We're trying to do maybe 1 bedroom, something simple. There's already an apartment on the 2nd floor that was there back when Barrett's Market was there. So
The whole road, except for that one building, is all residential.
West Warwick Credit Union, if people remember that back in
Exactly.
1991.
Yeah.
When Steve Quallick closed that, within 2 years, there were apartments on the 1st floor. His own business. 171719 Main Street, which is the mill house, and 2 other mill houses next to those, which I don't own, his own business and have been forever. So you've got residential and business now.
Right.
I think what Maryland's trying to accomplish is really just to clean up some of this stuff. Otherwise, what are you going to do? Go to these business owners that have, or these building owners that own residential units in a business zone and tell them to get the people out of there because they shouldn't be there. They're in a business zone. We really can't do that. So I think what we're looking at is just trying to. So I'm just here to put a face on one of those situations.
Thank you.
If have any other
Thank you.
questions.
I also know that you spent a decent amount of money fixing up the front of that.
Yes.
what, Like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe more.
Yeah, well, we had the issue with the floods and part of the building was caving in because of the foundations. And there was a drainage issue from an old culvert that there was no, wasn't even on the map. And so we discovered it after the floods and then we had to rebuild. So there's been a lot of investment in the building, but no return exactly. So yeah, you can imagine my situation. So thanks for listening. Any other questions?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Paul Villa, 15 Janet Drive, West Warwick. One learning thing we can maybe take away from this. Can I ask where your business is now? Can I ask?
Jefferson Boulevard.
In Warwick?
Yeah.
Okay, so outgrew his location. He moves to Warwick and West Warwick gets the residential. There's no other buildings in West Warwick that somebody could have tried to sell this man to keep his business here. Okay, so he takes the business to Warwick and we get the residential and we get the kids in the schools, we get the calls in the fire department, the police department. So this is what I'm trying to say. All we talk about up here is residential in West Warwick. We don't talk about business, period. Okay, that's all I want to say.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
I'm gonna say yes. I think every person that came up to the podium tonight made sense, all three. And I think we have to really look at what's going to happen in the future, residential versus business. Because at some point, it's going to be residential. All of us in this room paying the taxes to support the town, and we're not gonna be able to do it. So I am gonna vote yes, though.
Yes.
Mark?
With a little explanation also. The fact that these are all gonna be smaller places that are currently empty and not bringing anything more to the town anyway, I don't see the harm in it. And then also if everything happens, it's supposed to happen come January, it's not gonna make a difference anyway. So yes.
Mary Beth?
Yes,
And I vote yes.
First reading of ordinance 2023-20, amending chapter 13, planning and development, article 1.
move the ordinance.
This ordinance is part of one of those sections that I sent to you yesterday where the legislature has determined change the notice requirements. This one happens to deal with notice requirements to the comprehensive plan. The next one you're going to get deals with notice requirements to the zoning matters. These two ordinances are bringing our ordinance in line with the state statute. Whether these ordinances get passed or not, the state statute has said they're already in effect, and that's what you're living with. So these ordinances, really, I'm asking you to pass them so that our ordinance is the same as the state statute. But if you don't pass it, we're bound by the state statute anyway.
Part of their takeover.
Any questions for Al? Any public comment on this ordinance? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Mark?
No, because I don't agree with the takeover.
Mary Beth?
Yes,
And I'll vote yes.
First reading of ordinance 2023-21, amending section 19 variances and section 21 notice and hearing requirements of the zoning code.
move the ordinance.
Second.
Moving second, Al?
Ditto to what I just said.
Any public comment on that? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Mark?
No, for the same reason.
Same reason. Mary
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Liquor licenses, town council acting as the liquor commission. Transfer of Class BV liquor license from El Patron International Food Restaurant LLC to Patrona International Restaurant LLC.
Move approval of the transfer.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Any public discussion? For anybody who hasn't been here, excellent food and excellent margaritas, so I would recommend. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Business licenses.
Take out or?
11 is, I can do 1 through 10, but so I don't know if I do them, if we can do 1 through 10 and then we could.
Just make a motion to move 1 through 10.
Make a motion to move I 1 through 10.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Any public discussion? I do have a couple of questions just on, and I'm just trying to get caught up on the times. Holy Ghost. Your amplifier, is your amplifier a loudspeaker in this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Number 2.
What time are your bands playing till on Friday and Saturday? outside till midnight. How about Sunday? Midnight on Sunday? Because I think that's the only concern that I've heard this week was not so much the first and second night, but the Sunday and Monday. Some people do have to work on Monday. Some people do have to work on Tuesday. So they're wondering if you can shut down the amplifier outside at 11 o'clock. I mean, I go every year, usually done by 11:30, but even on the Friday and Saturday nights, but usually on Monday, it's like 9 PM, 10 PM. It's,
So
what's that? On Sunday and Monday?
actually, it says, it
says-
says midnight for all 4 days.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking. If you
Yeah.
can-
So I would move that we amend the resolution to have the times for September 3rd and September 4th, 6 PM to 11 PM.
Move in second. Any discussion on that? Any public discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Dominic, thank you for working with the neighbors.
No.
I need somebody to,
So was that was just on that one, wasn't it?
Yep.
So did that cover 1 through 10, that vote, or was that just for that amendment? Okay, fine, okay, yep, fine.
moving number 11. Had a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on number 11? It's renewal for mechanical amusement devices. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All your devices for American Legion, Frontenac, Crompton Vets, Howard Bar, LA Cafe, Sportsman's Club, Portuguese American Citizens Club, Portuguese Instructional Recreational Club, Portuguese American Sports Club, Portuguese Holy Ghost, Ray's Polyclean, Sergeant David Langevin and Amon Boudreaux Post, JJ's Cafe, Boomerang Roadhouse, and Deborah's down the road have all been approved.
Appointments and resignations. Request from Robert Flurry for appointment to the Patuxent River Authority for term ending June 30th, 2026.
I never contacted, I have to say, so I've still never met Mr. Flory.
Is he here?
Is anybody else?
Mr. Flurry here.
Right.
Last one. No information.
Shame on me, like I did not
It's not up
contact
to
him.
us.
Yeah.
You know, it's up to the person, I would say, to be here. You know, if you want to be placed on a board. So when questions like this come up,
So could we actually ask you to contact him? Yeah, see if he could be at the next meeting?
Or send something else in with more information.
yeah.
Yeah. So I move that we table this.
Because, I mean, we all want somebody on the
Yeah.
board. So
Moved and seconded to table. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Request from Josephine Sassy for appointment to the West Warwick Public Library Board of Trustees for term ending February 2024.
I would move approval of this. Joe Sassy, actually a teacher for a long time, had my kids in school. I think she'd be a terrific addition.
Second. Moved and second. Any discussion?
I don't know if Colin.
She
has-
just,
Colin here?
Colin is here.
She just won an award, which people should know about, which
Yeah,
I
she
know
did.
she's not going to want everybody to know about, but if you can,
Sure. Yeah, so as Council Vice President Williamson said, she's a great person. She's been associated with the library for many years
Right.
on our friends group. And in that capacity, I nominated her for an award from the Rhode Island Library Association, which is called Meritorious Friend of the Library. It's awarded every year for an outstanding library volunteer. She won that award. It was presented to her at the RILA conference in May. She already attends our board meetings sometimes as the liaison from the Friends, so she's very familiar with the role and responsibilities of a board member, so I think she'd be a fantastic addition to the board.
You can hit the road running, huh?
She can hit the road running, is right.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Request for appointment to the West Warwick Planning Board for 5-year term.
Move the name of Paul Villa.
I have to recuse myself.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Licciardi will be recusing himself, recusing. I have a motion and a second for Paul Villa. Any discussion?
Well, I'll go back to the same discussion I had at the last meeting. Mr. Villa knows how much I respect him, how much I even said publicly last time. I think he'd be a great addition to the board. But I also said at the last time, things were done appropriately by another candidate who's also very well qualified. And I just don't think it's fair that he, once again, is not going to be considered based on the way the process is done partially. But he didn't do anything wrong, and he's probably going to lose his appointment because he didn't do anything wrong. I just don't understand that. Not accusing Mr. Villa of doing anything wrong, but this was on the agenda last month, and it should have been completed last month, and it wasn't. So it's like a second bite at the apple type of a thing. Again, no disrespect to you, Mr. Villa, as you know.
I spoke to a couple of people that were on the planning board, and they highly suggest Mr. Villa based upon, because I actually had some questions if Mr. Villa or Mr. Garcia, because, you know, although he didn't put his name in, who got on the board first as an alternate, and they said right out, based upon Mr. Villa's attendance, his willingness to work with the board, give his opinion. Sometimes it's not an opinion they agree upon, but he speaks up, he speaks his mind at the meeting. And they think he would be a good fit as a full-time position on the board, so.
And I don't disagree with a single solitary thing said, but I think part of the problem is the mentality in the town has become that just because a position is opening, that the person, if they're an incumbent, for lack of a better way of putting it, is automatically going to go get it. So other people who are alternates don't put in for it.
Mhm.
And I just don't think that's the atmosphere we should be pushing forward in our town. Because as everybody knows, every other vote that's gone, if there's an alternate, and there's nothing wrong in their history, I agree with putting the alternate. This difference in this one is last month is when they should have been handled, because Mr. Reed is also very well qualified and put in and did everything the right way. And he's not going to be considered because it could push forward a whole nother month for really no good reason that I can see. And that's my issue with this.
I agree that Mr. Reed is very well qualified. I've had discussions with Mr. Reed. And perhaps we need to look at how alternates move up in the process. Maybe they automatically, based on time, get into a full-time position. I don't know. I think that has caused some confusion. I can understand why someone who's an alternate wouldn't necessarily have put in for the position if they are comfortable with the way the board's operating now. Again, I do believe Mr. Reed is qualified. This will open up an alternate position, and I would actually encourage him to apply for it.
I just want to point out, you know, not just me, but other members of this council have always said, if a person's serving on a board, they're doing a good job, it's theirs to lose. So that says right out, right, that usually the person who's serving in the position would have to lose it. And I think this person who was covering this position, even though their name's still on the list, I don't think they wanted to withdraw, but it was theirs to lose, because if those issues weren't brought up, I think he would have been reappointed anyway.
Oh, and I agree with everything. I agree with everything you both said. I really do.
That's why
But
Mr. Garcia and Mr. Villa as alternates didn't possibly reapply. So we wanted to give the alternates the opportunity to apply also.
and I understand that. I just don't agree that, again, having an atmosphere in this town to where an alternate doesn't feel like they should put their name forward. as an alternate, you should always put your name forward. If you want that full-time spot, put your name forward on any board. Hey, just one second, Mr. Villa, on any board, because you don't know what's gonna come up. You don't know what the council might know about the person who's putting in. If it ends up being just their name there and they get put forward again, might not actually be what the council wants. We might actually, because I go to the planning board meetings, not every single one, but a lot of them, and I hear Mr. Bill, and I agree. I think he's gonna be a great voice up here because he does bring forward other things that other people go, they get a little nervous on. And I like that. Because to me, it's gonna help clean things up. And where it's not just okay, nobody's gonna speak up against anything, so we'll all just sit there and say, aye. I like the fact that Mr. Villa does those things. So again, this is not something against Mr. Villa, it's against this whole process, the fact that a month ago, it should have been completed. And that's my only comments I have on this.
Any other comment from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm only opposed for the reasons stated, that's it.
Talk about a public comment. Start an ordinance or a license.
New business, resolution rescinding resolution 2022-141 for the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-150 pickup truck for the fire department.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, discussion. Bob, do you have anything on this? Why it's being rescinded?
The truck was sold after the resolution was passed, and Chief Ferone found a new vehicle now, so we wanted to rescind the original approval from last year and seek approval for a new vehicle this time around, which will be the next resolution.
Any questions for Mark? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution,
Can we actually make sure that 22-141 says C 23, just because if not, if somebody just goes to that 22-141, they're gonna think that's the answer. Thank you.
excuse me, resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2023 Ford F-150 pickup truck in an amount not to exceed $43,260.35 for the fire department.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, Chief?
Good evening, council. So yes, last year we looked to buy the truck. In the interim, when we talked to the people at McGovern, the truck was sold off of the lot before we got back to them. We, throughout the course of the year, didn't find anything. Ford was not building any new trucks at that time for the municipal program. Municipal program began in July. We built the truck. And this is a good deal. It's the best that we can do. I think I also forwarded all the specs along with that. So anyone has a question?
Any questions for the chief?
No, there's a big up in price, but I guess that's to be expected.
It is, yeah.
It's basically the same truck.
It is basically the same.
Right.
Yes.
All coming out of the same fund.
It is. It's coming from the, because it's going to fire prevention. They're getting away from the car. It's, we're going to be taking out of service a 2008, a Toyota 4Runner. It's 2008. It's old. It's, so, and handing down the next cars. So this will go to the fire marshal. Fire marshal's car will go to the assistant. The assistants will go to the inspector.
Any other comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
One other question on this, though, not for you, just as a general question. For what Mary Beth had brought forward, and I agree with that, but is it better in the future if we have something where we pass a resolution and it falls apart for whatever reason, that it gets put on sooner to withdraw it? So we don't have it on the same agenda type of a thing? I don't know, I'm just asking if that's something that would ease things or make it more difficult.
My preference is that we would do that only for the fact that it would release that funding source and make it more clear that those funds are now back into the pot and available. for
I don't
needs.
remember when in 2022 it was, but I mean, it's obviously September, so-
141, so it must have been
Yeah.
sort of later in the year.
He said September, so we're
Yeah,
pushing a
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is when we found out that it fell through, we should have probably rescinded it then.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
because we've done that a few times, and every time you bring up.
Yeah, because
Can we
I
make
know
sure
you've
that this
al-
is disconnected from that, or,
Yes, yeah.
or connected, I
Yeah.
should say, yeah.
Resolution amending Resolution 2013-180, Appendix B, fees and changes of the town of West Warwick.
Move the resolution.
Second.
I know this is before you as a resolution, but it was my intent to bring it forward tonight as a first night of discussion with proposals from the various departments that have made suggestions to make some fee and charge changes and allow them the opportunity to explain it and show any support or answer any questions. In addition to if the council saw anything that they thought that should be amended. I know we discovered late yesterday that there was some confusion on some wastewater information based on a resolution passed last year versus the working table that we were working on. So I'll ask that the wastewater conversation happen at our next meeting. So I'm not really seeking a vote on this tonight. It's more just discussion and allow the various department heads that we can tackle tonight, maybe the clerk's office, the planning, DPW and recreation, and move those forward.
Just to pick up on Mark on the wastewater situation. There was a resolution passed by the council last year, setting some new figures for wastewater. And working with Tony, wastewater somehow or other had some different figures than were actually passed by the council. Tony and I found this out late last week. I talked with Tony about it, and what we would like to do is just take the wastewater section away from your discussion tonight. Tony and I are going to meet either the end of this week or the beginning of next week and put together what the town has already approved. And then I will make that change. We will get it to you before the next meeting, when the resolution will come for a vote. And as I spoke with Mark and with Tony, what we would do at that time, you would have whatever you come up with tonight for everything but wastewater. With wastewater, you'll get the figures before you meet on it. If at the next meeting, where we have the actual resolution before you for action, you want to make some changes, let's say, to what Tony and I submit to you within the next week, you can just amend the resolution that night to take care of those changes that are not before you tonight. So that's the only explanation. The rest of it, I sent it to you with the highlighted, hoping that that would make it easier for you to pick out what changes would be made. And then when I submit it next week, those will be gone.
So the first one is town clerk. If you want to tackle that one, I know that Sarah may have the best information, all of them, but just the first one, the constable and police constable section, we abolished those quite a few years ago. So right now, the only constable license that we issue is for service, and most of those are town employees that can serve municipal court summonses. Now I'll defer to Sarah's expertise on the liquor items.
So in reviewing all of the different licenses for my department, which there's a lot of them, I compared them to state statute. Some of them are set by state statute. Some of them that we have some flexibility on, I compared to our neighbors and other communities around the state to see where we were at. And I think we're in line with most other communities on most of the things. The only license that we were substantially under in was our liquor licenses. We currently, I believe, are charging $850 for a class BV, which is most of our licenses for your restaurants. It's a full bar. It's a victualling license as well as a liquor license, where a lot of municipalities charge separately for those things. We have an all-inclusive right now of $850. So I'm recommending increasing that to $1,000 to make us more in line with other communities. And same for our class BV limited, which means that it's just an establishment that sells beer and wine only, or class D, which is our clubs, fall in limited. Again, these are all within state statute.
Any questions for Sarah? Thank you, Sarah.
You said, Mark, you're not looking to have this be a resolution. This is more up for a discussion. And then
Discussion
yeah.
in case anyone has a agree, disagree, a different comment,
Then the next meeting we'll have it as a.
want to assign other additional research. The next one's the building official's office. This one probably has the most changes, and most of it is just to clean up the section. A lot was just added and copy and pasted into it over the years. So it just clarifies the part that it's set by the value of what's being asked for, determines the permitting fee schedule. I can let Bob elaborate on that if he wishes. So I don't believe there were any changes to the actual fees. It's just cleaning up the schedule and minimizing a lot of the excess material that was in there.
Yeah, the fees haven't changed at all. If you look at page, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but there was a chart for like say building a house, and the fee was $65 a square foot and $30 a square foot. Well, you can't build a house for that nowadays. So they see the fee chart. They tell me they can build a 2,000 square foot house for $130,000. It doesn't work that way. So we just want to be in line with what they're actually charging will reflect the fee of the permit.
So if I'm building a house, I come in for a permit.
Yeah.
Who determines the value of the
Well,
house?
they see the fee at $65 a square foot, they're gonna put that down. And I know from general construction, you can't build a house now for $65 a square foot. It's more like $125 a square foot. So there's charts to tell you, you know, what the going rate is for building a homes and different things nowadays.
So I see all those fees are scratched out.
Yes.
And then I move a little further down and look at the fees, and it's so many dollars per thousand.
Correct.
So my question to you, I come in with a building permit.
Yeah.
For 2,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
Based off the old way, you knew $60 times 2,000 square feet, that's the cost of the permit, correct?
Correct.
Now, this way here, it says $20 per thousand. I come in with the plans, 2,000 square foot house.
Yep.
I feel the house is worth 200,000 to build. You feel it's worth 300,000. Is that right? Who determines the value of that house?
Show me the contract.
What if I'm building? I'm the guy. I'm gonna hire Jay, Mary Beth to do all my work and do
It
whatever.
doesn't work
right?
it doesn't work that way.
No, but again, I feel
It's
it's
a-
200,000, but you say no, it's not.
We go to the means catalog that tells you a square foot price of building in today's market all throughout the country. If
But
they
I think
challenge,
that's the problem you're gonna run into is,
So should the fee be off the square footage also?
no, that's what it was before. It was. it's-
Much higher, obviously.
It's
but-
higher now than it's
Yeah.
the chart, you know. They can't build a 2,000 square foot house for $60,000 square foot anymore.
And the chart you're referring to actually exists in our current
It's the
statute. It's
cedar,
not changed.
yeah.
It's just repositioned.
and that's what I'm just trying to clarify here, because what I'm reading, and maybe I'm misconstruing it, is Before you went by square footage, so that was the, even if we moved it to $125 a square foot, let's just say it's that now, right?
Yeah.
You knew the square footage of the house
Mhm.
was it. You knew it was 2,000 square feet.
Right.
And the value would be $125 per square foot. Now it's going off valuation of the determination to build that house. Now, Dave Goslin owns Goslin Builders.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna build my own personal house. I'm gonna save myself a lot of money. I'm gonna,
That's not how we value.
I
permit,
understand
though.
that, Bob, but I'm saying, I'm gonna write myself out a contract for $175,000. I'm gonna obtain and do most of the work myself.
Right.
Right? At that point, my labor, if I'm charging myself my own labor for free, if I'm building my own home, let's face it, yes, I gotta pay electrical permit and I gotta pay a plumbing permit based upon what's going in there. But I'm asking, if I decide I'm gonna build the house myself, who determines the valuation?
All right.
That's all I'm trying to say.
I understand what you're saying.
Like, I can come in tomorrow and put in for two houses and say, well, I disagree with you, Bob, because when you're talking 200,000 and 300,000, right? It's a cost savings to me, right? If this house is you're going by fair market value or the value of me building the house?
Mhm.
Because if I build the house and I do majority of the work myself, my sweat equity comes off of that.
I have people come in all the time and say, for instance, I'm building the deck myself, so it's only gonna cost me $300. That's not how we base the permit. It's material and labor. It doesn't matter if you're doing it or if a contractor's doing it. It doesn't work that way. We don't give you a discount because you do it yourself. That's not how the code reads. It's material and labor. Doesn't matter if you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, but all that stuff changes. Valuations change,
Right.
material changes, labor
Absolutely,
changes.
absolutely.
So.
That's why we
you know,
can't use.
if you have a
65
house from 10 years ago, but it's being built today, the value is gonna be a lot higher than it was 10 years ago. And in 5 years, it could be a lot lower. So wouldn't it be better to just leave it at a square foot because a square foot's never gonna change? If you're building a 200,
But you can't, if we kept,
2,000 square
we kept with $65 a square
No,
foot.
so you have to change that based on some sort of, there must be
Metric.
some marker or an average cost of,
There is, the means catalog tells you what the square foot average price in every state is.
so if you know
I
that,
could
and that's
look into
gonna,
that and probably come up with a
just,
figure if you'd like. I understand
that
what
would
you're saying.
probably be an easier way to do it. And then you name what your source is and that's what you go to. And whether there's an inflation factor kicked in every year or how often it gets published. I assume it would get published every year.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
is a 2,000 square foot home today is gonna be still a 2,000 square foot home in 10 years.
The
and
cost.
No matter what the market does.
Right. But the cost, the
Valuation.
cost of build is gonna be.
Absolutely. So
Oh.
we shouldn't have kept the 65. I
No,
don't know how
no,
long
no.
we had it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
agree with you.
So
that's
there's
not
got to
even
be,
half.
there's got to be some way to change that each year.
That was just one example, but Bill was trying to streamline everything, but if you'd like, I could work up a figure on the means catalog.
I think that would probably be,
You
I
have too
think
many
that would-
people that
yeah.
do work themselves for this reason, to help save costs, so.
and that's great that they're going to save the cost, but it shouldn't necessarily impact the permit fee. So
Correct.
that's and I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm looking at here, Bob, is cost to the homeowner, cost to the building. I'm not so much worried about the developers or whatever, but the homeowner itself, right, who decides to do a lot of their own work. On a 2,000 square foot house right now, the permit is $1,300. A 2,000 square foot house right now, valued at 350,000, is now $7,000 for a permit. Think about that.
No,
$20 per thousand. 350,000,
No, it's not 7,000.
no.
I don't have a
Based
check.
upon what you're saying here, it's $20 per thousand. So for
No.
every $1,000, it's $20, right?
No, it's on a sliding scale. Oh, okay, I'll give you an example. Hold on. Let me get this thing. I have it right here.
Right here.
So let's say 300,000 would be,
300,000 would be 400.
300,000 would be 4,900.
Would be how much?
4,900.
So 4,900.
Right.
What is it today?
Well, but it's warm today.
It's wrong, but what, even at $125 a square foot,
Well, it would be, so it would be whatever, so you're talking 65, 130,000, so it would be. $30,000 would be, 2,200. It's double, but so in the price, the cost of construction
65
is
to
doubled.
125. Yeah. So
Cost of
it's a-
construction is doubled.
just point out that you're going, I'm just pointing this out to the council. Like I said, I'm not so concerned about the developers because they're into it to make money. But what I am concerned about is the average homeowner who comes in and gets a permit, might be paying almost double for any permit.
That's how, I mean, how would I do that? You know, everybody's gonna come in and say, I'm building it myself, and then they're gonna have a contractor do it.
No, but if I want to put my own windows in, and I come in for a permit.
Right.
To put those windows in, right?
Yeah,
Now
and
my
it-
permit is double.
Yeah, but how do I know that? You said that, and you already have a contractor that's doing it. You say, I'm doing it myself. I can't go out and check every job saying if you're doing it yourself.
That's what I'm just trying to clarify.
I'm
Who
just-
determines what?
That's why there's no difference if it's you doing the work or if you're paying a contractor. It's always been that way for 20 years I've been in the business.
So the fees that people, doesn't matter who pays, people get a permit, come in and pay, whether they pay
Right.
1,000, if that doubles to 2,000. What's the difference besides us collecting $1,000 more in revenue for that project? You're like, so you're doing the same work. We're just collecting $1,000 more.
It's just a fee schedule.
I think.
If
what
I'm
Bob
hearing
is-
what he's saying is that's the way it's
65.
been done for 20 years now. So he's not proposing that we're collecting double the money or whatever that example was. Am I right?
No, I mean, it's, the cost of the job is the cost of the job. But when they come in and if they look into this, most of them are pretty
Who's they? Bob?
contractors. They know that they're not gonna tell me a job. They know I know the business, so I'm not gonna agree with them. if They put a low number down.
Yeah.
But if they're smart, they're gonna come in and say, hey, your fee says right here, $65 a square foot on the first floor, $30 a square foot on the second floor. You can't build a doghouse for that. I mean, I wouldn't be here right now if I could build for that price and what they're getting now.
Swimming pool.
But do you agree that just going back with just a square foot is probably gonna be even easier for you?
Oh, absolutely easy for me. sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and just
that's
increase-
probably,
Increase the rate on the square foot and not leave it at 65?
and maybe see what other communities are doing, Bob. I mean, what rate they're at, how, are we competitive? Sort of
we're
like
comp-
what Sarah
we're-
did.
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely. I can give you some more information on that.
That would, I think that would be, but
Streamlining, I think we're all in agreement.
I agree. And,
Yeah.
and I think it would be less headaches for you to go to square foot, back to square foot and
Yeah,
figure out
I'll
what
do
that
some more
price is.
research and
Yes.
get back to you. Absolutely. Not a
Yeah.
problem.
Controversial
Thank you.
because
Yes.
I don't want somebody coming in here saying the building official told me my house, the job's worth 300,000, but we think it's worth 200.
Yeah, that's not.
No,
All of a sudden,
Yeah.
No,
that's a big difference.
No, just so you know, if they come in and it's so egregious, well, if it's a homeowner, it's a different story. If it's a contractor, I could say, show me a contract, and I can do that by code.
Right.
I can,
Yeah,
you know,
but again, if
I-
somebody's doing it on their own, I don't want to be Monty Hall up there. Well, you're
That's why-
250, we're 260. we're
That's why if it's
255.
based on square footage, I think it makes it more,
Yeah.
yeah,
It makes it
I agree.
Playing
cut and
field.
dry at square foot, if it's a fee.
I'll look into that.
Any other questions for Bob?
Thank you.
Bob?
The next one was the planning board, some suggested changes on plan reviews. I think Marilyn has the buzzwords for this one.
As far as the planning fees go, I did not raise those at all. We're pretty much in the ballpark with other communities. However, I did bump up the sewer review fees because we're experiencing a shortfall when we get the invoices from Jeremiah and Associates. I don't know where the funding comes when we have a shortfall, but I just thought it was prudent for us to bump it up a little bit for each stage so that we could cover those costs without it having come out of the town budget, which I figure that's where it's coming from.
So you don't think the other one should go up?
I think we're pretty competitive with other communities. Some communities are wild. I mean, the prices are really wild. The only one that I would question, which I don't understand how it happened, but the fees for Arctic for a major is just a flat fee of $500 if it's a major and $50 for a minor. And then the mill reuse plans, it's $1,000 and $950 for review for the sewer. And it goes through the same stage process, but it just seems to be a flat fee, and I don't know how that was established. So I don't know if that should be increased or,
I don't see what you're talking about for Arctic.
Yeah, I don't,
I
Well,
think the
Arctic
design
really-
control district maybe? Is
Yeah,
that what
it's
you're
the
referring to?
design
So I think
control.
those are were set by the originating ordinances that established.
But I don't see
control.
them in this.
They're
Yeah,
on,
it's
they're
on
on
the
the
second page, sorry.
The last 5 out of 6 things.
underneath.
Oh,
Wonderful.
design control district? Okay,
Correct.
gotcha. All right.
so those seem a little shy to me, but I wasn't sure.
We were assuming they were done that way because we were trying to engage significant development in the Arctic redevelopment area or any other areas that got proposed and
And for the mills as well, so I did change the sewer fee for the mills because they're so large, the projects are so large, the review is bigger, so I did bump that, but it was $75 per each.
And you think that's enough of an increase to cover?
No, depends. Sometimes problems come along and a project may have to be reviewed twice to, fix some of the things that were proposed by engineers.
Is there a second charge when it's reviewed twice at all?
Well, Jim has a second charge, but we have just this flat rate. But we have had a couple of applications where we've had 2 reviews on something.
Can we
And the
put that in
fees.
here? We shouldn't have to eat anything. I mean, I'm Jim, my glasses on, Jim's not here, right? All right.
No, but I mean, obviously Jeremiah and Associates' time is,
Right.
Worth
But
time
it's
is
a,
what
it's a
they- right,
pass through, but so we should pass it through to.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't
I,
disagree.
I think,
I'm just
It
wondering,
might be a procedural thing that we want to include in the process to make
Yeah.
it known
So
at
if
the
it's a second
beginning.
review
that if
for
it's a second
that,
There's a
review,
second
that it's
fee.
built in.
the first review is covered by your
950.
application. However, if it requires additional time,
Give me an example why there'd be a second review. In other words, if they reviewed it, set the plan in place,
or not.
why would, so again, he comes in, here's my building, here's what I want to do. Here's the plans, you review it, you tell me what I gotta do. He goes ahead, goes, what, I'm now being told what I gotta do. I gotta put the sewer line, I gotta put a manhole, I gotta put a clean out. Why would there be a second review? Give me an example.
I think we had one for quality foods. I'm not quite sure on that one, but I think we ended up, is Jeff
Jeff,
here?
do you know?
Unless
Do you know
they're
anything about
disputing
this?
it.
so they might not put in what
No, we're talking
They
sewer or
might not
something.
have done it.
That happens sometimes, but I don't know why.
So I'm just with businesses that come in, we get our application and they do a review. They say fix A, B, and C. Then they give us new plans. They only fixed A and B. They never
Correct.
fixed C. And then we have to go back saying, hey, you didn't do C. And then sometimes they don't send it back, or then,
Is
there's
that
like
a
this.
plan review or a plan inspection? Because that sounds more like an inspection, because you reviewed my plans. When I come in for my building permit or whatever, and you're reviewing my sewer line, you review it.
Mhm.
Now, you have to come out and inspect it to make sure I put that in. So are we double charging for
So if I go out and inspect it, whoever it is, Bob Rose goes out and inspects it. He's got to review the paper, make sure it matches. Is he charging us for a second review or is he charging us for an inspection?
But before it even gets to that though.
Yeah.
You send us the paperwork, fix these 6 items, send me the paperwork again. You only fix 3 out of the 6 items the second time around, so we have to review it again saying, hey, you still missed these 3 items.
So I agree with Councilman Lichardi. We should, if we reviewed it, we told you what to do and you didn't do it, then that person should be paying for a second review. Or an inspection, whatever it may be, because now you have to go back out and re-inspect it.
Yeah, I think
We
Jeff's talking
agree,
before.
we
yeah.
just want to agree with the developer in advance, saying if there's a back and forth, that there's going to be a pass-through invoice directly to you.
In the very beginning,
that.
I expect, well, to be frank, I expect somebody to always dispute it because there's one person's name in this town that becomes a swear word. So I've heard more times that, all right, I'm opening up a business. We heard it here tonight. Guy said he was gonna open up a business, but he was told by the sewer that he needed this, this, and this, and it was gonna cost $100,000. So up in leaves, right? Whatever it may be. Now, I expect that to be a challenge. I don't expect that person to be charged for it, but I expect that person, if you told them, here's what you do, this is what needs to be done, and they all sign off on it, they go build their building, and 3 out of 6 things weren't done right, then that should be back on the homeowner or business owner, not the town.
If that's really not planning and saying you've got to do this. So, they don't do it. At that point in time, it's not planning who says you didn't do what you were supposed to.
It's the sewer. No,
Who says, well, my suggestion would be that we put that into wastewater as opposed to planning.
But
The whole review cycle or just the second review?
the whole thing.
Just a second. Agree with one of you, it's not a review, it's an inspection. Makes that second, when they go out, they find out that you have not done what you said you were gonna do in our review of your project. Now we go up and we inspect.
Well, from what I understand, what Jeff was saying was that we get the plans, they're given 3 things they have to fix on the plans. They turn them back. When they turn the plans back over, they only fix 2 things. So it's still just a review of those plans. Is that what I understood you to say?
Happens all
Yeah.
the time.
So then that's another review of the plans, not an
It's at
inspection.
each stage of review. This, especially on the big projects, there's three stages of review. But Jim also does the stormwater. And I'm going to use June Carr as an example. When DEM reviewed those plans, they came back with more revisions. So that was included in, there was more charge for that. So it's kind of a mixed bag with me. And it's only included as a sewer review on our forms. But he also does the stormwater and DEM requirements and the sewer.
Well,
So I'm not totally blaming Jeff for
No, and,
for the sewer.
so I agree with Councilman Machadi and the council president that there should be an additional charge there. Maybe not the whole 950.
Yeah.
Because they've already reviewed everything and they're only specifically looking for A, B, and C, whether or not they were done.
Right.
And if, so with that second review, I think, a
So maybe
reasonable.
on that line item, we do, it's a flat 950, but then if there's a second review, $500.
Additional reviews,
something
whatever,
like
right.
Failure to
that.
Comply or
right, yeah, failure to comply.
Just any,
install properly or something to that extent.
Just
Maybe it's a
anything-
fee, because we have to spend our time and like you said, I'm not expecting
We're gonna get charged for
Jeremy
it. Right.
to do something for free.
No,
No, but
That's-
that poses another question, though. If it doesn't have to be Jeremy. A company is charging us, say, $1,000 to do something. And we only charge we only charge somebody, say, 500. We're eating,
That's right.
we're eating this all the time. So if we do, it doesn't matter how many we do. So, and it's not fair to your department, it's not fair to your department. And because it has to come out, I would say come out of there somehow. So no matter how you look at it, we're in a loss. So we're either going to increase the fee to enough where we're making something out of it, or face it, I mean, it happens to be Jim, but the engineer can come in and say, our rates are going up. Now it's $1,500.
If you
Right.
go to page one,
So
I'm kind of.
how do we get past that?
As we're talking, in the fees, we have a flat fee for preliminary on a minor plus $25 a unit. Maybe we do that same principle on the sewer line, that there's
For inspection.
a fee plus so much per unit.
Well, I was just thinking that you had the $950 review initial. If it passes, that's what you pay. If you have to have it redone, then just like $200 for, because now the engineering company is only looking for what they pointed out as mistakes. So they're not reviewing the whole thing all over again. They're just reviewing that spot. So it's not going to take as long. So whatever the amount is that you think is fair, I threw 200, but whatever amount you think is fair from what you know we get charged.
I don't want to
Each
make it more
additional
confusing.
review.
No, and I don't want,
Who pays Jeremiah, the town or the applicant?
well, we collect the money from the applicant, and what I have been doing since, since we realized that there was a difficulty with the situation. When
how
I get
much
the
difference?
bill from Jeremiah, I provide it to the attorney to make sure that those fees get paid.
How much difference is it from Jeremiah's fee and the applicant?
It depends on the scope of the project.
Ballpark, couple hundred, couple thousand?
A few hundred generally.
Is it always a loss?
No,
But did you say you actually give the bill? to the-
now I do
Yes,
now. Once I
that's-
realized, I mean, I've only been here a little over a
Yep,
year. So
yep.
once I realized
There
that
was a
we
shortage.
were having a shortage and that there were outstanding bills from before I got here, then I was trying to collect money for it. I couldn't justify the difference so I was having a bit of a problem with that. So when this came up, I thought it'd be a good time to maybe beef it up a little bit so that we're getting enough money for
So
it.
you're beefing it up, but I assume you'll still continue to, if the bill comes in from the engineer, that
Correct.
you will actually give it to the attorney, make sure it gets paid in full.
Correct.
Okay.
I know in the past, when we've had a second, when we've needed a review, we've asked the engineer to provide an estimate of time to do it. And advise the developer what we expected the bill, so they know it's coming.
I should pretend I just listened to you, but I didn't. Sorry.
We've had circumstances where we know an additional review was needed, and our engineering subcontractor has provided an estimate of time,
Yes.
an approximate cost on what it'll take to do it, so we could alert the developer for that, so it wasn't a shock and they knew in advance.
We actually have done that. We've had some conversations, but if you're doing it on the back end, when a bill comes in, we're probably covered. I mean, if you want to put a second review fee in there, that's up to you. You would have to do it less, let's put it that way, right? You would have to send out letters to attorneys less
Yes.
frequently. Yes, yeah. So maybe that's all part of originally we said we're dropping sewer out of this conversation. We just spent about 20 minutes on sewer. So maybe that's part of that whole discussion. Yeah. I think Al just recommended too, make it sewer and not planning, and maybe we can figure that out too. So maybe that's part of the whole discussion when we talk about sewer fees. Yep.
Any other comment from Marilyn? Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you, guys.
Quickest one is under the police department, eliminating the pistol permit processing fee, which we did
Yes.
months ago.
Yep.
And the only ones left are Public Works and Recreation, which I'll defer to the director.
No, he sent that to us an email today.
There was one update on Recreation. I don't think that box made it in the one that Al and I sent out.
Good evening, council. We can start with recreation if you'd like. I went up on the fees anywhere between $10 to $25. Due to the amount of work and time we put into the fields. I also talked with North Kingstown, East Greenwich, Newport, Warwick. We're pretty close to each other as far as our prices go. We're not way ahead of anybody or way behind anybody.
With these new prices?
Yes,
Jeff,
Oh.
I have a few questions on this though.
sure.
I'm not disagreeing with your fees or your fees, your increases. I know we put a ton of work and a ton of money into the fields.
Yeah.
Whether it be the lighting or the grounds. But on this, to me, it doesn't make sense that on some we're going up by 5, some are going up by 25, some are going up by 35. We're kind of all over the dance floor. So
Well-
how did you get these numbers? Because they don't, like, to me, they don't make sense.
Okay, the way I went with the numbers are the fields that we rent the most. Okay, McCarthy is obviously the field we rent the most, gets the most use constantly. I mean, I've got it booked all year. We have never been allowed to rent out Little League or any of the softball fields. The leagues basically forbid us from doing it. What they had for fees for them were minimal. Now that we have redone the fields and we have new lights and we have, state-of-the-art fields, we have more and more people wanting to come and rent our Little League field, rent our
Yeah,
softball field.
I agree 100%
So
with that.
I didn't want to go with a dramatic increase. For instance, excuse me for 1 minute. Like Little League, it used to be, the girls' senior field was $85 with lights. That doesn't cover anything, so I bumped it up to 105
Right. But like,
to cover.
but on your increment, that's my question on the increments. Like, for example, you went from 60 to 105.
Correct.
So that's a $45 increase. But then on Amby Smith, there's a $35, this is with lights.
Yeah.
Amby Smith with lights, 35. Little League, it went up to 90, so it's a $30 increase. To me, the numbers, I would just do it different. I'm looking
Amby
more of a
Smith,
flat- I'm not
I understand
questioning-
where you're going with Amby Smith.
It's not a particular field. It's,
Yeah.
all the fields have a different rate.
Well,
Whether they have lights or non-lights. So I don't know how you got all those different rates. That's all I'm asking.
I just got the rates from, I just upped them to where I thought they should be. I didn't get them from any
But
particular,
based on what?
based on the amount of use. That's how I did it, the amount of use that we get. We rent out Ray Silver, we rent out McCarthy more than any other field. We have no revenue coming in from any of the other fields because we were never allowed to. And that's if you flip over, that's where the other side comes in. But I just felt that these were going by other towns and going by the size of the field, going by whether they had lights or they didn't have lights. These numbers made sense. I don't think they're out of range, out of whack by any stretch of the imagination.
If I would have to choose a field.
Yeah.
right, And I could either choose play on the Little League field to have a game, or to play on Amby Smith, or to play on the girls' senior field.
Huh?
I'm looking at 3 different rates.
Yeah.
Same thing. I just need a field with lights. They're all in great condition. Why is one $25 more per hour than the other?
Well, the girls softball field is bigger. It's a larger field than the boys' Little League field.
But it's a field with lights.
Right.
It's not, it's a field with lights.
So you're not supposed to play softball. If you're playing softball, in theory, you shouldn't be playing it on a Little League field.
No, Jeff, I get all that. I just don't know how you got the rates. Like
So-
if we're going up we're going up with permits.
Right.
Right? So in another department. To me, we're going up, like we just talked about building.
Mhm.
It's, to me, I'm visualizing this is the rate, whether you're building this, this, and this. So I know what I'm going. Here, all the fields are different. I'm just questioning how you
I just went by the amount of use that the fields, like I said, and by the other towns. That's all I did.
So you're suggesting that every field without light should be $75 and every field with light should be $105.
Yes,
Is
and no.
that-
Yes,
okay.
kind of. I mean, you're looking
I
at,
assume that it takes longer, so the manpower to cut the field would come into it. A bigger field is going to take longer, so
we're doing that anyway. I mean, it's not like, I mean, I've done this for a living for a long time.
It's also the maintenance
So-
of the, like on a Saturday, let's just say we have a Saturday where we have a tournament on the girls senior field. Okay, and you have a tournament starts at 8 o'clock in the morning and it goes till 8 o'clock at night. We have flex people, obviously, that work weekends. But after 8 hours, I still have to bring somebody in for overtime to cover the rest of that shift.
I'm not
another 5
questioning, I'm
hours.
just questioning, to me, it's like, I do it simple. It's a field with no lights. You have this for a 2 hour block.
Well, we
a
have,
field
we
with
have,
lights for
we
a
have
2 hour
it,
block.
we
When
have
you
it
get to
set up.
McCarthy, which is a lot bigger, right? A
Right.
lot bigger, and it's more of the rental field. That would, sorry,
We have it set with Little League, like Little League with,
the heck is that?
my ring.
with no lights
Sorry.
is $60 and Little League with lights would be $90. So it is broken down by no lights and lights. If that's what Mary Beth was just asking.
Right.
What are you suggesting, Jason? Maybe
I mean, I'm not looking at a specific number of what you want to charge, whether it's 50, 60, or 100. I think that's your job.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking, if I want to bring a team on, I want to practice, how come I'm paying? And I need a field. So why am I paying $30 more if I'm, hang on, all the numbers in front. Why am I paying a different number? I just need a field to play.
Okay, so you go by that. You go Amby Smith as opposed to the girls senior field.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The girls senior field is all brand new, has irrigation, has all new lights, has all state of the art stuff, where Amby Smith has no water. We're not paying for irrigation over there.
That's
We're not
irrelevant
paying
to me. That's irrelevant. I need a field with a grass. I'm trying
Right,
to play
but
devil's
you're
advocate.
trying to offset what you're putting onto the field as opposed to, so if we don't have water at Amby Smith.
I
And,
don't need water in Amby Smith.
Come-
I need grass field. That's all I need.
okay,
grass
so
to play
come
ball.
June, come June when we've had no rain, the grass is completely dead and it's half dirt. You want to play on that field?
Right. So these increases are based on the field itself.
Correct.
So I'm asking.
I apologize that it took us that long to get to that.
No,
but
it's,
now that
but
you said
that's
it the
all
way
I'm
you
asking.
said it, I
That's all I'm asking,
apologize.
How you got to that number.
I apologize for. And on the backside, you can see the highlighted area. We've had several discussions about this situation. And for the amount of tournaments that they have and the amount of money that is brought in off the tournaments, which is on the websites. It's public knowledge. You can go on websites and look. I came up with that fee that covers, again, if we have a tournament and it goes 2-3 days and it's 9 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours a day, it covers the second guy really, basically is all it does. It doesn't do anything else for us.
so. Who are we charging that 500 to?
The home team, which is West Warwick, would not be charged. Any team that comes in from out of town would be charged.
So that-
Now, that's not $500 per team,
It's per tournament.
per tournament.
Okay, so again, I'm playing devil's advocate because I've done this, so. The West Warwick team is going to hold the tournament
Mhm.
at a field.
Mhm.
Just say, pick a field, say Amby Smith.
Mhm.
They're filling out the permit.
Mhm.
They're paying you $500 before it starts.
Mhm.
Okay. Whether they collect, whatever they collect or don't collect anything at all is irrelevant to you.
Well, obviously, I'm not that type of person where I wouldn't, I mean, if you're making, you know how many teams are coming in for the tournament because it's on the website. So if you sit there and look at it where you're hosting the team and you have the field, you have 8 teams coming in at $400 a piece, that's $3,200. You're not paying the field rental, but you're paying,
That's not what it says. Like, I'm looking at, like, I'll play devil's advocate again. I'm filling out a permit.
Right.
To run a tournament
Mhm.
on the West Warwick field.
Mhm.
Your cost is $500.
Yep,
I'm
that's,
paying you, I'm giving you
that's
the.
for the
per-
out-of-town teams that are coming in.
So I'm a little confused because
No,
I think you
yeah.
said the out-of-town teams are gonna pay, but who's responsible for collecting? it?
The league. The
Should
league
be
hosting it.
West Warwick League.
West
Correct.
Warwick League, yes.
The host,
The
The host team would collect the money
the
and
host,
then they would give us.
And I don't
the
care if
check.
they have 4 teams, 10
It does-
teams,
that's
20
irrelevant.
teams.
Right,
They pay $500.
charges
for the
$500.
tournament.
Right.
So if the host team.
Yep.
Which would be West Warwick, chooses to charge them $1,000 per team, that's irrelevant to us.
Mhm.
Or they charge 0, that's irrelevant to us.
Correct.
This is a $500 fee
flat fee,
for,
yes.
per tournament.
Mhm.
And this
Right.
is for everybody, correct? Little
Everybody.
League, softball.
Softball,
McCarthy, Babe
baseball,
Ruth.
everybody. So in other words, the other thing too is you have the firecracker tournament, okay? Which is a huge tournament on McCarthy. They come in, they pay the rental fee.
Who?
Firecracker, his name is, Peter Cook. Gentleman who pays it from
Oh,
Firecracker.
Firecracker's the name?
Yeah, Firecrackers,
I'm
sorry.
thinking it's a tournament. with
So
firecrackers,
they
sorry.
come in and they pay the rental fee for McCarthy.
Okay.
So that
So
ends
they're
up,
responsible.
that, yes,
So
that,
you're
they,
they're your go-to person.
yes,
Fire.
and they've paid us up,
Okay.
they don't owe us a dime. That usually brings anywhere between $1,700 to $2,500
For who?
for revenue towards the town. It doesn't come to us, it goes to
Goes to who?
the general fund.
Right now.
No, I'm, so,
Yeah.
so that.
So we get a check made out from the firecracker tournament to the Parks and Recs.
Yeah.
Okay, Parks and Recs puts in a deposit to the town.
Which is separate for, this isn't the $500.
No, this has nothing
So
to do with
it's a
that.
separate
So,
tournament
right,
fee.
right, so
From
they,
McCarthy.
they can choose, the other thing I didn't put on here that they can do to choose is they can pay the rental fee for as many games as they're gonna play on that field. You do the math, it's still gonna add up to the same thing, pretty close to it.
Okay, so so what you're saying about the money?
The
So where
check
does
gets-
this money go? Like this?
The check gets made out to Parks and Recs.
Yeah.
Okay, goes to Parks and Rec secretary. I look at it, make sure it's correct. Then it gets put in a deposit bag. Gets brought into finance. Finance deposits it into the general fund.
Is that something that we could change on here? That
I
we
think
could
it's a
change when
different
talking about
discussion
this?
as far as, and that was
Yeah.
part of the plan.
Right.
Obviously, doing some dedicated.
Right now, you're just talking about fees, restructure.
Yes, I do believe that should be done.
Yeah, 100%.
Just not,
So is that fee for McCarthy, is that on here as well, a McCarthy tournament?
The McCarthy tournament, as far as what,
Any tournaments at McCarthy?
well, it would be a $500 fee.
yeah, but you just talked about the firecracker. Tell me
Right,
how
the
you came up with that
okay,
amount of
the
money.
Firecracker, up until now, has paid the rental fee. Now, what I originally wanted to do,
The rental
And
fee
we
is
set-
is so much per hour?
right,
Per-
so
per
in other
game.
words, right now McCarthy is $125 for a 2.5 hour block. Okay? So you hold 5 games, 6 games on that a day, times 5 days.
Yeah.
You do the math,
So you're taking this number per block, per practice or game, and that's how they're paying.
right,
So now you would add that $500 on top of that.
correct.
Yes. And however they recoup that is up to them.
And a lot of times what they do, to be honest with you, is they end
They're
up,
gonna charge the other
they
teams
sell
coming in.
concessions,
Oh,
they
yeah.
charge the teams
Yep,
coming in,
yep.
they charge at the gate for some of these tournaments,
So they would pay $500,
plus the rental,
like a registration fee,
right,
and then they would pay the rental.
correct. Because right now, like I
I'll
said,
say This, I think this came before the Parks and Rec Committee almost about a year ago now, maybe a little longer. I think they got scrutinized, and I'm just gonna expect our phones to ring with this also.
we,
I'm
we,
just-
we
I
cannot.
don't
keep-
disagree. I
we
don't
can't keep
disagree
doing
with
the way
it.
we're doing it,
I'm
for
just
sure.
forewarning that our phones will ring. and,
About what?
No, the leagues were anti against this 500.
I don't think they all are. I don't think they all are against it. I think they understand that those fields, a lot of money's been put into those fields and we need to maintain them. And again, so now the onus is on them to charge each team an extra $50 or $75.
Right. We
to get
can't
into the
continue to,
tournament. Right,
for the amount of,
okay.
New lights.
I think everybody agrees that everything's getting more expensive.
correct,
And maintenance of these fields is gonna be more expensive.
absolutely.
We put a ton of money into these fields,
Absolutely.
and they have free brand new scoreboards.
oh,
Or, sorry, free. I said.
Free,
oh, sorry.
not free.
And the other thing you have to look at is like I come to you guys
Free.
before.
Yeah.
You're talking between $5,000 and $7,000 per field maintenance per year, not including your water. Right, so even these fees, we're not breaking the bank by any stretch of the imagination.
It's not designed to either.
No, we're just,
We have to
need
do
to
make
defray
it
the-
self.
you need to
self-
defray the
Right.
cost.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions for Jeff?
Hey, one more. Are you feeling that there's a more usage from outside groups renting the fields? Now that the fields are newer?
oh, 100%. I've got teams from South Kingstown, Warwick, used our fields all year. I have a couple teams from Attleboro that want to use the fields. Hendricken has used our field. So yes, and now that the Little League, senior field, and the junior field are getting to be done, I have more softball teams from out of town and baseball teams, younger kids that want to come in and use our fields.
I do have a question on fees in regards to McCarthy and all these other parks, as far as all these leagues and whatever, they run concession stands and whatever, make their money. When do we start allowing food trucks to just show up?
Well, that was,
Is that shoot, I mean.
no,
I mean,
If
maybe
that
it's a
was-
discussion for another time because I think it's not.
Yeah.
But again, I've seen food trucks now, like I went to a tournament, stopped by, and there was a beautiful food truck parked right in front of the concession.
that is
stand.
correct. And they were spoken to about that because if you're gonna do anything like that, it is on the permit. You have to provide that on the permit, which they didn't.
I would just stop talking about it because it's
Well,
not
that's
on the
part of the
agenda.
permit fees.
Well, I understand that, but you're bringing in a brand new group of people that may want us to talk about it.
So can we put that on the agenda for the next meeting instead of letting it?
Sure.
Instead of letting it go to the next spring or so.
Well, yeah,
And if you're interested in time, we can always add the DPW suggestions to the wastewater one at
Correct.
the next meeting if you like.
Any other questions for Jeff?
We're not gonna do public works tonight.
If you want to save that
I-
for
It
wastewater,
doesn't matter to me either way.
I may make a suggestion. You could also have a workshop that might help
Yeah, I think-
because there's a lot of
I
information,
think
there's a lot
it's
of
a good idea.
numbers.
Probably does require,
you
maybe
know.
in the September, what meeting, what's the date of the?
Unless you're up against the wall for time.
oh, I mean, it's the 5th.
Maybe we do like a workshop at 5 o'clock on that date. Is that enough time? Do it at 5. I don't know if everybody can make it at 5.
I think we should make it 6 o'clock workshop, then council
Okay.
meeting afterwards.
That's fine.
I don't see a lot.
But the
being done.
workshop,
what is it gonna do?
the workshop can turn into, depending on who shows up, and what information is being put out there. I mean, that could turn into an hour and a half, 2 hours in
So
itself.
could the council meeting.
Right.
Whatever's gonna get done at the workshop is gonna be
Well, the
discussed at
council
the council
meeting,
meeting.
we went on this one for over an hour.
And we do have a rec committee that I would say
You
should be
have a lot of
involved.
information through a lot of departments and there's a lot of questions that need to be asked about. For example, why is something that's at $50 now going to be 150 or 200?
Right.
Same questions with the building official. I mean, again, someone's gonna come up with an idea that's gonna say, this is how town of West Warwick is gonna value that piece of property that's gonna be built, regardless of who's gonna build it. And I think a workshop might be, some way to iron some of these things out. Plus, you'll have time to look at what the proposals are now and come up with your own suggestions of dollar amounts.
Yeah, I mean, we could put a time, I don't really want to put a time limit, I guess, on it, but it could just be the workshop and then you could do it where just the council meeting is immediately following the workshop, correct? Sarah, we could, no.
It's almost like a
No.
budget hearing.
Yeah.
Well, but if you have a time deadline, you have a time deadline. If you have to go, if
So
you have
maybe
to have a
6 o'clock
second
for
one,
the
you have to have a
workshop and
second
7
one.
o'clock for the meeting, and we get what we done. And again, if it's something where we need to carry it to do a second workshop, then I guess then with that point, we.
But it'll also be on the agenda too, so that you can have some of the
Uh,
discussion.
We can't do it for the 5th though, because we've already advertised a liquor license for hearing next week. Yeah.
Okay.
The next meeting's the 19th after that. After that's the 19th. So
Maybe the second Tuesday in September.
We have a hot mic.
you mean not to have, you mean not, you mean not to do it on a council meeting night, separate meeting, you mean?
Absorb it. And then put it on the agenda for the 19th. 4-week notice, I'm just.
No, because none of this could take effect.
Yeah.
January 1. Yeah.
Yeah, we could just, let's just do it
Yeah.
before the, let's just do it
Yeah.
before,
Monday?
let's just do it before the meeting on the 19th then. I mean,
That's
let's-
fine. And if you have to have a second one, we do a second one.
Yeah.
If
Before
it's
the
not
meeting on the
resolved,
19th?
yeah, why don't we just do?
yeah,
And
make
if
it
we need
6,
to, if we find it, we haven't allotted enough time, we'll have a second one.
so 6 to 7 and
Yeah.
the meeting will be at 7.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh,
Sarah, on this next item on the agenda, since it's the last item, can we do the upcoming appointments, move number 4 right into public forum? And see if, I'll let the council speak first. And then, because I know there are people here to talk about this one topic, so we're right at the end. We're, if it's something in the middle, I understand, but we're right at, this is the last topic. If we could just say upcoming appointments, then we can move this into discussion, and I'll open it up to the floor.
So upcoming appointments, sewer use board of review, appointment to fill a vacancy as an alternate member for a 3-year term. Sewer use board of review, appointment to fill a vacancy as a regular member for a 3-year term. West Warwick Housing Authority, appointment or reappointment for 5-year term expiring November 2027. Tuxet River Authority, appointment or reappointment for 3-year term expiring June 2026. Planning Board, appointment or reappointment of 5-year term, that's been filled. We will be adding a planning board alternate to the next agenda. Library Board of Trustees, appointment to fill vacancy for 3-year term expiring 2024, and Tax Assessment Board of Review, appointment to fill a vacancy for a 3-year term.
and 6 was actually filled tonight also, was it not?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize.
Nope, it's okay.
Discussion of digital sign on town hall property. Not sure if it's on.
I did.
Mark?
Yeah, the last meeting, I asked to have it on for this meeting. So I want to start out right up front. This is not a situation, I mean, I don't know anything about the sign overall, but I want to put out front, this is not an attack on the Taybacks, John J. Clark Insurance, Ohio Mutual, or anything like that. Be upfront, my 2 houses, my 2 cars go through John J. Clark Insurance, so it's not any kind of attack on them. This is strictly, is this a procedural thing? Should we have business names on a sign that's on town property like that? Type of questions. So me personally, I didn't even know a sign was going there. I got a phone call and then a text message with a picture of it in front of town hall, and it's like,
I'm sorry, what was that?
I don't know if any of the council knew, but I'll word it that way. A sign was even being put there until after it was put there. I know I didn't know. Mary Beth said she didn't know. I don't know if anybody else
No,
knew.
I heard rumblings of a sign over the past year from the West Warwick Police Department was looking to have a new sign installed. I personally never saw any plans or anything, and I think when I saw the sign being constructed, I think in my weekly report, I said the sign was being constructed in front of Town Hall. I didn't even know if it was lit, not lit, if it just said West Warwick PD. I didn't see any plans on anything. But again, I think however it came about, it did not come before us.
Right, no,
To make
that's-
that clear in public. no.
Right, it didn't come before us. So my first question is, how did the sign come about? Does anybody have knowledge of how this came about?
If you don't mind, I'll just give you a run through in my mind on a few sections, I guess. So during my tenure as police chief, I had proposed and searched for fundings to purchase more of those variable message boards that have the joint radar trailer and messaging for use around town for speed education and enforcement and the limited civic messaging that those offer. Those boards at the time cost about $30,000 and never made it to the top of our priority list for funding or surplus funds. During the COVID pandemic, we saw a need for civic messaging increase tremendously. And we did a lot of that with the variable signboards up and the different med pods that we did and other items. So with the idea of trying to figure out a way to supplement our variable message board fleet and the code red notification system, I mentioned to some people, and it could be what the council president is referring to, exploring some fixed electronic signs that seem to be becoming more and more popular. My thought is to look into, can we perhaps put those on town-owned property, perhaps at fire stations that are on a couple of our main thoroughfares to increase the visibility and the messaging that we can offer. And those signs would be controlled by the police department, who would have the 24-hour access and control that messaging. So in early fall of 2022, the DPW director and Mr. Tabak were assessing the Columbus Square Memorial Site, which John J. Clark Insurance holds as an adopt-a spot. And during that rehabilitation and upgrade project that we did back then, an electronic message board was suggested to enhance the town's communication abilities in our town center. And we started the talk about that and look into it, both placement and design. And during that planning phase, it was determined that an electronic sign in that square where the existing sign, if you will, was, it's just a pole that says Arctic Village, that was too close to the intersection and would pose a hazard to pedestrians and vehicular traffic in our minds as like a distraction at a four-way intersection. So we started looking, obviously the police sign was just a little further up in the next mulch bed. There was a discussion of extending the adopt-a spot from that square up to an additional mulch bed to cover that spot. And there was that discussion on perhaps being able to seek a sponsorship, if you will, to offset that cost, because again, finances are always tight and we want to be good stewards to what we have. So we looked into that, replacing the police department sign in addition to an electronic one that we can control. Regarding the finances in this particular project, again, part of that discussion was we have numerous adopt-a spots around town. We have scoreboards at all our fields and in our buildings that have advertisement on it, and on the outfield fences at all our fields, where businesses and organizations offer to sponsor signage and cover a significant portion of those costs. In this particular case, a private contribution was made in the amount of $20,000, and the town covered just under $3,400 for the installation, the electrical permit, access to the online programming application, and the training for the police administrative people who will control the messaging. And during that planning process, I read through our elaborate and fun zoning rules and found a lot of sections that were confusing, or may, in my mind, provided some conflicting information based on definitions of signs and zones. So I consulted a few people that I consider most knowledgeable in that area and looked for guidance on what to do. It was, at the time, I believed, while it would be acceptable to provide some plans to the audit redevelopment agency who controls the planning and zoning in the Arctic Village, that it wasn't required by our code. So I made the determination not to bog them down with the minutia of that, if you will. And obviously, if I was mistaken or wrong, that's on me. I own that. But my direction to both Thrifty Sign, who made the sign, and Director Cordwell was, I was aware that St. John's Church went to the Arctic redevelopment as they're on private property to propose their sign just up on Washington Street. And my guidance to them was follow whatever guidance the redevelopment agency gave to them as far as sign size, brightness, and all that. So we would be compliant in the Arctic district. So in my mind, looking at it, the opportunity to have that type of project and exposure and control of messaging, I thought of this more of it as a pilot program to see how the system is accepted and valued by our community before proposing new locations, a protocol for sponsoring solicitation at other sites if that's the route that we decide to go, and address any other issues and concerns. Again, if there's any misinterpretations of this package, that's on me. And I'm fine with acknowledging that if I made a mistake. And obviously, if collectively, if the thought is that I did, then I'll do whatever corrective actions I need to fix it.
So thank you for that. It's a lot more information I didn't know, obviously, so I appreciate that.
And just before I forget, I thought I had sent it out in one of my weekly reports. I thought it was shortly before the one David mentioned. I skimmed through them today. I usually save them. I couldn't find it, so it very well could have gotten missed or omitted, but I thought I did at one point back in late April, early May, but
I
couldn't
don't
find
remember
it
ever
today.
reading it. Not that I have the best memory in the world. The only knowledge I had of a sign going out in front of the police station was when we were touring the mill, because Jeff was there. And I just remember him saying that we had a really hard time digging down because I guess those granite steps in front of the police station at one time, and they hit those and they had a hard time. He said to put the sign in. I had no idea what the sign was. I thought they were just putting up a sign, no parking or whatever. So I had no idea. And that's the only knowledge I had prior to the text message I received with a picture of it saying, you know about this? Type of thing. So thank you for all that information. As far as the adopt a spots, I know that they're usually all town property and very much accepted, but I think they're very minimal as far as the expense on a lot of them are put in. I could be wrong on that also, but I think it's fairly minimal on each individual spot. I know certain people, they do multiple spots, so it becomes, but it's individual. So is there a contract between the town and anybody as far as the sign goes?
No, the town owns the sign. It's on town property. We can have the daily control of the sign. It
So
was
there's no
just
contract prior to this with the purchase of it, an agreement with the donators, nothing, there's nothing in writing, no contract at all?
just the service order and installation order through a Thrifty Sign,
Who installed the sign?
a Thrifty.
80/50, that was part of the $20,000 cost?
The part of the 23,780, which was the total cost.
23,780, because I know, like I said, I remember Jeff saying that they did work over there, and I was told recently, I don't remember when, it might have been yesterday, that they were actually there for 3 days. Our people were there for 3 days with the installation of that.
I can't speak with confidence on that, on how long they were there. I know they did hit some granite, so they did some shifting.
We came in, we dug the hole, and they delivered the signpost to us. We put the sign in the ground with the cement.
So
And
you
they-
guys did the installation?
They came and installed the sign and did all the wiring and all that stuff.
Well, by installation, so you did part of the installation. 'Cause
Correct.
Part of the installation obviously is digging a
Correct.
hole and
That is
putting it in a
correct.
corner of cement. So how many days were you there?
A day to dig the holes, and then we set the poles, and then the next day came back, checked it, leveled it, and done.
So say 2 full days or
Oh, not even
No.
day and a quarter.
day and a quarter? How many employees?
There was a machine operator, a mason, and a laborer.
And machine to be used to dig the holes, I'm assuming?
Say that again?
Machine was used to dig the holes, I'm
Yeah.
assuming? So
Yeah, the
town,
dingo.
town property to.
Our
town
machine.
Equipment, yeah, okay. So was that part of the valuation of the 23 change for the sign, or is that an additional cost?
That was additional cost in kind labor, if you will.
Okay. Who did the electrical work?
They did a thrifty.
Even,
they're
even into the
certified.
building?
They're certified to do the electrical.
They did all the electrical?
We had electrical running to the police sign that was out there previously, so it was
And all they do is
just
connect that?
the
It just
extra
got rerouted, yeah.
So the total cost of the project was how much?
23,780.
And how much town, well, you don't know because it's directly or indirectly, money that was used, so 3,780 is the actual, but indirectly, it was also labor
Correct.
that was put in, okay. The reason why I'm asking all these questions is because I'm not opposed to the sign. I agree with your idea on the whole thing as far as having the sign out there to give the public information. Not opposed to that at all. For me, it's process as usual. And I just don't know if this should have gone out to bid. Type of a thing. And it's the same thing I brought up when we were talking about the signs at the Civic Center and we we're talking about the cooling situation at the Civic Center. Where you sent out on February 10th, the town of West Warwick purchasing policy and procedure. And I brought this out, and if anybody wants to follow along, I made an extra copy. I can go run, make a couple more copies right now if you want, or whatever. It's a whole bunch of stuff here, but
It, if I speak, it was a donation.
I understand
Okay,
that.
so the town had to come up with $3,000, and by process and procedure, all you would have to do is get, some written quotes, but that was included in the.
And A
installation
Thrifty
fee.
is on the state's MPA program. We've used them for vast majority of signage in town.
So
They
according
are on,
according to the MPA, we don't have to go out to bid at all.
okay. Well, I'm glad that that part was brought up as well, because even though something's donated, and this is what we went into with the Civic Center, when the signs are gonna be no cost. According to state law, even if you procure something and it doesn't even cost you anything, the word procurement means you obtain it. If it goes above that dollar amount, you're supposed to go out to bid, even if it's free to the town. And that's why I asked all those questions to see how much everything actually was, to see if it went above and beyond that amount. So part of so we didn't have to go out to bid, even if it was a biddable situation.
Correct, they're on the MPA.
So then the rest of this is not gonna matter, because, part of the state law, like I said, Rhode Island General Laws 4555-4, under construction, means the process of building, altering, repairing, improving, demolishing any public structures or buildings. Probably not gonna use it. Yeah, probably not gonna use it. Yeah. And then procurement, just so everybody's clear on that. This is the definition under Rhode Island state law, which our policies and procedures refers to this definition to cover us under everything we do. Procurement means the purchasing, buying, renting, leasing, or otherwise obtaining any supplies, services, or construction. So, or otherwise obtaining means any way you get it. So even if it's free, we're supposed to follow that. So then I'm done. If that was the way it went, it was under the purchasing agreement. But I do want to ask for us to have another, or for at least Mark and possibly Kristen, to look at this section, the purchasing and bidding section, because there's a lot of things in there that are listed that we don't do. One of them, anyway, we'll talk about that on our own, but just, I would encourage you to look at it, because there's a lot of stuff that we don't do. And I know one of them is in January of every year, the council's supposed to appoint a council member to be part of the bidding process, review bids and so on and so forth. And that's in our town charter, and I don't think, I know, I've never seen it done. You know, so just to look over that and see, maybe there's some of the stuff that is antiquated that we might have to do a charter change at some point, or at least update onto it. At this point, I don't know.
Any other comment from the council?
I want to make one. And I know, I don't want to, I know, Mark, you mentioned a lot of things tonight about the sign. To me, it's not about a sign at all. Thank you, by the way, for donating the money for that sign. I like the sign. I like the fact that, you know, everybody has complained in the past, there's no information. How do we get information out? And I'm one of them. To me, I like it that it's an informational sign. People know when the budget, they'll know when the budget vote is. They'll know when the financial town meeting is. We have hopefully we have more than 10 people there. I do have two issues. One, there's a lot of work put into this. And again, it's not about a sign. It's a fact that I had to find out from a constituent, and I had to say, nope, I have no idea what you're talking. And to me, it's embarrassing.
And you're
as
right,
a
and that-
city
and that's on me. I thought I sent it out. Obviously, I send out,
know, I'm
I
just-
send out a weekly email every Friday that has lots of information. I actually,
So it's out of, it was out of
I try to
character.
open
It
up
was
the
like-
email on a Tuesday and start feeding information into it, because if I don't, then sometimes
And I
I
get it.
forget and I
I
miss
get
it.
it. Other thing that I don't feel comfortable with, and hey, I don't know who the Ohio Mutual is. To me, it's where West Warwick. I've had more calls than I wanted to about the sign, and why couldn't my name go on? How come we didn't get a chance to put it on there? What are the signs gonna be in place? And you know, that's what's on the sign is John J. Clark. So John J. Clark now located in Town Hall. So those are the questions that's coming up. I don't know how to answer those. So, and my feeling is we have Town Hall in any town is a sacred place. And it belongs to the town of West Warwick. Period. And if I had the money and I wanted to put my name on the building, you know what? Could I do it? No, I should be told no. And that's how I feel. I feel the town hall is sacred. Police department, fire department, is offshoots of the town hall, but this is the town hall. It should have been cleaned up a long time ago. It looks great out there. Things are getting fixed. But overall, I love the sign, but I think town hall is a sacred place and that belongs to the town as well.
And that's why I don't know if any of that zoning stuff, because I know there's an ordinance out there. I couldn't find it where you can't put advertisements on town property type of a thing. It's not quite worded that way. I couldn't find it, but I mean, if somebody, when we had this discussion during the last election season, if somebody puts a campaign sign on town property, we told, rip it off because it doesn't belong there, violates the ordinance. You know, it's a little different, but it's town property. It's not like an adopt-a-spot says adopt-a-spot with the company's name. That doesn't say that. It doesn't say sign donated by. It really looks like we're endorsing those companies and that they're actually in this building. That's the way that sign looks to most people.
I don't want to seem ungrateful though. I mean,
No,
you
and
know,
neither do
you know,
I.
We're very fortunate to have businesses in town, and there are many that do a lot for the community. And like John J. Clark Insurance with the adopt-a-spots, with the donation of the money, with scoreboards being donated, by Reed's Landscaping, who do an amazing job at the adopt-a-spots, the Rotaries. You know, you can name many of them. Jell's Kitchen, what they do for people in the community. Be the Change. I mean, there's a lot of them. You know, I don't want to seem ungrateful to that. I mean, it's needed. But again, I think this is the town hall.
So would you feel more comfortable if it said sign donated by and had them listed?
I wouldn't feel comfortable had any name on it at all. That's how I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to
Yeah.
do that,
I-
you know, but I'm also
I
saying
mean,
it should
Centerville
say,
Bank does the scoreboard up on the football field, and as you
But-
said,
but it's
or
not-
somebody
but-
said,
but you,
But you know,
That's
at the
what I don't
football field,
compute-
the Central
Yeah.
Bank's not.
but
there.
I don't compare the
so
town.
that's what you're concerned
But
about.
you, like Centerville Bank, they sponsor all the concerts.
Yep.
You know, that's great. This is the town hall. Everything else is secondary. Everything. That's just how I
So
feel
if the police department wasn't attached to the town hall, you'd be okay?
as far as,
Having that sign,
that
it's a
same
police
sign there.
department sign.
yeah. If the police department is not a town hall. People, happens to be, they are in the town hall building, but this is the town.
We
hall.
have to
I-
leave
I
the
still-
town hall building to get to
Yes,
the
you do.
police department.
Oh, that's all I'm saying. You know where I'm going.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah, the citizen does.
Maybe.
The one thing I'll tell you, I disagreed with was having Omaha and John Jay Clark on top. And I think Mark addressed that immediately by putting sponsored by, and they both moved to the bottom, because I still feel it's a West Warwick PD sign, and I felt personally that, you know, with my conversations, that West Warwick PD should be on the top, so people pull up and see this is West Warwick.
So it
PD.
wasn't my imagination, it has shifted.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I
that's
noticed that too.
Not right. That's not the
It's
same.
different.
And Jay, and I agree with you. West Warwick is lucky to have a family and a business in businesses that care about Arctic and what it looks like today. You know, we look at banners, flowers, signs, you name it. Things have drastically improved over the past 5 years here in Arctic.
Well, and I agree with that. I agree with everything that said, but we have other businesses in town that might have wanted to donate and have their name put up there also, but they weren't approached. It was kind of like in a lot of people's minds, a closed off loop. And they weren't part of it, and that's why a lot of people were offended, I believe, a lot of businesses, because I don't get a lot of phone calls on much. But this one, I got a lot of, you know, a lot more, and most of them were just angry because how come I couldn't get my name there? Because again, like even if it is a standalone police department, a lot of our community loves our police. They love our fire. They would love to have their name associated with that police department. They would love to have their name associated with that fire department. They would love to have their name, probably more those two than town hall, to be honest with you. I think that they look favorably on those departments more than they do us.
I definitely understand that. And that's why I said that in my mind, we had to start somewhere. In my mind, I was treating this as a pilot program because I'd like to do it elsewhere. I mean, maybe it's not $20,000, maybe it's different denominations, maybe we can pull it off at other locations if it's not. We don't find, like I said, I couldn't find what you were referring to either as far as business names or whatever in town property. But I'd like to see it grow and obviously, you know, tweak a few things so it's more transparent moving forward and advertise it, and you know, whether it's treated like an adopt a spot application, we can work on that.
How does that work?
The adopt a spot?
Yeah.
It's just an application.
To goes to who?
I believe it's at
It goes to you?
DPW.
Do you ever say no? Have you ever said no?
And for free.
I actually like the sign. I
do
like the
too.
fact that I think it serves a great purpose. I understand what you're saying about, but I don't think we ever asked anybody if they wanted to put their name on the scoreboard at the high school. I don't know how that happens. Typically, it's around a conversation. It's typically around a casual conversation that just grows into something else. And I applaud the Taybacks for
And
taking.
so
the
do
line.
So do I.
Yes.
Stan and I had a conversation the other day and I told him that. And that's why I started out with, this is not an attack on Tavax. It's not an attack on John Jay Clark Insurance. It's nothing like that. This is strictly procedure as far as how the sign got there. And me personally, I think this sign or any sign we have in the future, I think a sponsored by or
What does
paid
it say
for
now? I don't
by
remember.
type of a thing.
Sponsored by.
It does say sponsored by now?
Does it say it up there?
On the bottom, yes.
Yes.
I didn't see
So they
that.
moved that, you're right. Westport
have to-
Police is up top now. So it does
Okay.
clearly say that.
But I would still, in the future especially, like to see it as a separate sign personally, or some more of an indicator, because when I walked in, I looked over, and I think I might have been more taken because everything was switched, and I didn't notice the sponsored by.
Yeah.
So I'll have to look at it again when I leave.
But I would actually encourage making it a program throughout the town. I mean, I
Absolutely.
think,
Should, it
I
should
think
be.
I think it would be a
It should
great thing.
Fire station on Queeset Avenue is a
Oh, it would
great
be,
spot.
be a terrific spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, so
I
there's a
mean,
lot
the-
of-
You get a little bit beyond the sign issue, you get into policy procedures,
Oh,
that's
something
else for another agenda.
Okay.
And just out of curiosity, I know I've received compliments and 2 complaints. And one of the complaints was sometimes it's too bright or it's bright. Control that. And the other one was the names on it. That was,
So before you open up to the floor, just 2 other things. Can we put legal updates on the next agenda? So it'd have to be.
no, we're still on that
Oh, I thought-
agenda item.
oh, I thought you
I
said-
just,
No.
I
I
just
thought it
said
was
if anybody
officially-
wants to speak on this, since
way
it's the
you know
last
the
item,
name, yeah.
I'll let them speak on
I
it.
thought you
So-
said we were moving it into
No,
public comment.
no,
so
we-
Is
my
there any
apologies.
comment on the sign only? Public comment, sign only?
Janice Pacino, 25 Ninth Street. I have a problem with the sign. The town of West Warwick, the building, the town hall is owned by the people. And the people pay taxes to maintain this building. We've got advertisement on the sign, which is solicitation. We're not in business to solicit business for businesses. And only certain people have their name on there. What about all the businesses in West Warwick that would like the opportunity, or the small business that can't afford to put their name on the sign? That's a neon sign, reminds me of a carnival. It needs to be toned down. It's in a corner where it's very busy. The traffic over here is terrible. You come up on Main Street, people are crossing to get into the police department, the town hall. You get distracted. The lights are too bright for a town hall, for a police department. We're not in this type of business. It's too big. You go over here with the American Legion, that building is supported by its members. They want to have a little neon sign, fine. You want that kind of a sign? Put it in the back of the building, but not in the front of the building. It don't belong there. This is a town hall. It's not for sale. So that's my opinion. We're starting to get too many neon signs in the town of West Warwick. You go up to the church now, there's a neon sign. You go over here, there's a neon sign. You go down Main Street, there's a neon sign. But all those businesses, they're told to cut down their signs. But this is way too big. And that's my opinion. And I've spoken to many businesses and they're all saying the same. Why can't my name be on that sign? But a small mom and pop cannot afford that kind of money to advertise. And we're not here to advertise for businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other public comment on the sign?
Alan Plaza, 5 Robin Lane. With regard to the sign, a couple of items. You've got the regulations, and I consider that an off-premises sign. Off-premises are strictly prohibited. I wish to thank you for the sign. However, this falls on the town, okay? They made the donation, a huge donation. And I think the town council should stand up, return their donation so that may be employed in some other format somewhere else in the town to improve the town. And that strictly become West Warwick Town Hall, West Warwick Police Department. When I first went up, I came in here, David, and asked you, where's the office for Ohio Mutual? Because that's the indication that that sign provides to people passing on the street in front of the town hall. As for beautifying the town hall, I've raised this issue for like 5 or 6 years. We had a wall falling down. It was fixed. However, you look on the right side coming in, and it still looks like I'm not gonna use the word, but it's terrible, okay? You go to Rome, the roads are still there, the buildings are still there. The West Warwick Town Hall, I remember when this was built, and it's falling apart and it's a disgrace. How many years have I said, when are we gonna power wash the building? Mark thought it was made, 100 years ago. The old elderly building, yeah, when West Warwick first became the town. But like he said, this is sacred. This is the town. This is the opinion of West Warwick. And I told you, we are rapidly becoming Central Falls. You got rid of the tires up there. There's tires down near Phoenix. Okay? People are looking at us and just dumping this stuff everywhere because that's the impression of West Warwick. And we have businesses that are trying. I mean, the John J. Clark Insurance Centerville Bank, they donate to this town. The issue is, why doesn't the town council suck it up and look at things? Okay? And I'm saying, you're going to get hammered on that sign continuously. I'm very simple, black and white, yellow. She mentioned neon, correction, it's LED. However, having been a sailor, the gouge with sailors, there's fine neon, fine fun. That's not what you want for West Warwick. And I'm tired of it. And I've got other public comments that I'll raise, but that's just my 2 cents on that sign out there.
Thank you, Alan. Janet Drive. I think we're kind of losing sight here. Message boards are very important. They're very expensive. Okay. One thing I always said, and I have 30 years of service to this town. Okay. We're always a rich town, but we're rich in businesses. There's not one businessman that I couldn't approach when I was in the police department here that wouldn't step up to the plate. So businesses like this have been stepping up to the plate, but as a constructive criticism. Maybe going forward, if we're going to entertain some more of this stuff, separate, have the signs, maybe get a price on them, put it out in public notice. Look, we're looking to sponsor a sign in this location. Any businesses that are interested in making such a donation, please submit your names, put them in a hat and pull somebody out. Okay, make it fair at very least, if we're going to do that. This has been happening. The old Providence Civic Center isn't the AMP and it wasn't the Dunk because the state didn't sell the rights to it. Okay, it happens and it's quite smart, to be honest with you. However, maybe some kind of a lottery system where everybody who's interested in doing that has a chance and they can put their name into a lottery and get it done. So thank you. Thank you. Any other comment on the sign before we open up the public comment?
First of all, I sent an email out back in July to each and every one of you, including Mark Knott. Did we receive it?
I did.
Or is the emails no good? The address is good? Did you see it? Did you
Yeah.
get it? Do I deserve a response? Every email I get a response. Now, my other question is, did the email leave this table right here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, got it. Was it forwarded anywhere else?
So I'll respond to that. I received your email.
Yeah.
I read your email.
Mhm.
I didn't have an answer to your email.
Yeah.
So I did not respond to your email.
Okay,
So
And as you know, you and I had a verbal conversation,
correct.
so.
I had
This
zero
is more about,
conversation.
this
So
is
do we.
more about correspondence with my town council that they just pick and choose what they're gonna answer.
So Derek, I didn't have a correspondence with you. I had correspondence with the town manager who said he was going to respond.
Can I just get maybe next time receive something? I didn't know if the emails were working.
That's easy. Just
Yes,
send
you
a read
did.
receipt.
You and I talked about it too.
So on the sign, I'm not gonna take shots at the Taybacks because we donate a lot around here too. However, I think the sign's great. I think it's informative. Kind of made me go through the intersection a little slower the other day, trying to read it, but
Well,
what
that's
I don't agree with is having any kind of a business name associated with town hall. What do I think should be on there? You got 3 spots. It should be West Warwick Police Department, which that's what who it's for, so put that on the top. The next 2 should be West Warwick Town Hall and West Warwick Fire Headquarters. That's what should be on there. And then something the council slacks in a little bit, maybe we can change this a little and send letters to people that donate and say thank you. Because I have one sitting at River Point that I solicited myself because, and you asked how this works with scoreboards. So scoreboards get solicited, okay? DPW, Parks and Recs, they all try to find people that want to donate. Great. Well, I solicited that one. That was $18,000, and J&J has yet to get a thank you letter from anybody in this town.
I agree that that should be done.
You
We
think
should
that's
actually
wrong?
give them a
That is
citation,
wrong.
just like we should.
Okay, we always praising
Yeah.
Arctic redevelopment, Taybacks, whoever. I
Okay.
don't want a pat on the back. I could give 2 shits about that, quite honestly. I don't do it for that. However, you had a company that doesn't even do business in this town come forward. We told them, and Jeff will tell you, we showed them a scoreboard that was like $5,000. Jeff? You know what they said? That's too small. This is girls softball. This is gonna be an elite field. Give me the catalog. I says, well, you don't have to do that. Give me the catalog. I'll call you in a couple of days. They called me. They said, is this good? I says, whatever you want to do. I looked at it, 18,000. I says, no, you don't need to spend that kind of money. You don't even have your business here. But they did it. And they don't even get a thank you.
Again, Derek,
Nothing. They did opening day over here. They weren't even invited to see it light up.
Either way.
we
Well,
weren't
that's a
invited either.
problem, right?
Yes.
It's a problem. People need to get their shit together in this town. I mean, we got people in charge. We got people doing things. I mean,
Can I just ask with the language?
let's do it.
Yes.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
tone of the language, please.
Sorry. I'm just, I mean, that's all I got to say. But as far as this thing goes, I'm not opposed to it being out there because there's a lot of information in this town that doesn't get put out there. Voting, referendums, budget hearings, all that stuff. I hope it shows up there. However, I think the 3 spots should have to do with this town. And then this council write a letter to the Taybacks and say, thank you very much. Not Ohio Mutual, which is probably one of their lenders that they went to for some money. And then not them themselves. Because the front of town hall is not an adopt a spot. And if it is, I want to know who I send my PDF to because I'm gonna put a sign out there myself. I'll put some plants out there. We all pay taxes in this town. We all should have the rights to the town hall if we're gonna do that.
So Derek, you adopt a spot, I adopt a spot, the Taybacks adopt a spot.
But town hall shouldn't be an adopt spot.
But wait a minute, what you just said though, right? You just can't, if they adopted the spot,
Yep.
okay? Just because you want to go there doesn't mean you can adopt it. That means I can go down to the
Go
the
ahead.
Rotary and say, I'm gonna throw my name up there because, you know, the spot
Doesn't
I have
matter.
doesn't have my name on
The
it.
Rotary, we were solicited for, among other people.
I
Okay,
understand.
Dave Lombardi came to me.
He came to you, but he didn't go out to bid and say, hey,
He went through a
everybody.
few others. And then he came to me.
You solicit, just like the
All
sign
I'm
was
saying is that
solicited.
wasn't solicited.
The sign was solicited.
The adopt a spot wasn't solicited.
Maybe it was.
Then I guess I'll get on the phone tomorrow, see who else.
Just like
is this.
Dave Lombardi didn't come to me and say, hey, do you want the Rotary?
No,
Okay, just like.
but
the
it's
caboose.
fine.
I went to the
Like I
town
said,
and
I have
said,
no
"I'd like to
trouble with the
donate to-"
sign. I have trouble with the advertisement on the top and the bottom. Rightfully so. It should be town hall, fire department, police department, not police department, Clark Insurance, and Ohio Mutual. Shouldn't be. It's that simple. Thank you to the Taybacks. Their hard-earned money came in and they probably got some other help from somewhere else. Great, no problem. But they don't need to be advertised on town property, especially the town hall. Somewhere else, scoreboards, they did a couple scoreboards down at River Point. Did you guys get a thank you letter for that? There you go. That's fine. But all I'm saying is that's how it should be handled, especially town hall. And the next time I send an email, hopefully somebody responds. This guy, I don't expect him to. I mean, the only thing he knows how to do is text over here, so he's not even listening. But the rest of you, you're all professionals. That's all.
Thank you.
I have a question on the sign, on the mechanism first. Who, you said, you sent people for training. Is it the dispatchers?
It'll be police administrators of the chief's choice, including him.
All right.
Any other comment on the sign? Hearing none, we're moving into public comment. Open floor.
So before you put it out to them, please, can we put legal updates on the next one? Just because we haven't had them in a while. I know we've gotten some like email stuff here or there, but just so we can have an executive session. on it.
Second meeting.
Second meeting?
Yeah, every 3 months.
Okay. All right. And Jeff, on the way in today, and I don't know if you already know this, but Rock's Market parking lot, right at the sidewalk, somebody decided that it'd be a good sleeping spot, so they left 3 mattresses in a box spring. So
I had some added to my property.
well, they are right at the sidewalk. I mean, it's, I don't know how that,
Jeff, the other thing too, and I was gonna email you today, but I had to get the address, 858 Main Street. It's actually Lippert Mill and where the old Noon's Fruit used to be. There's dead limbs hanging over the main street. I don't know if that's the state's responsibility, but those limbs are looking rough. Thank you.
Can, while we're talking, can we get an update at the next meeting, Mark, or at some point in September regarding ARPA funds?
I'll send it out in the weekly email and we can put it on the agenda.
Okay.
I have talked to the state superintendent up at the Kent Division, and he said he would get to him, but if we driven by and we've seen that he hasn't got to him, he has no problem with us cutting them down, so I'll be more than happy.
Do it first.
Yeah, and this was going back probably 3-4 months ago, to be honest with you, because we go out and check that stuff on a daily basis, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Janice.
I have a comment regarding traffic. I come from Lippert, and they're working on the roads for Pike Street, East Main Street, and Main Street, Brayton Street. I mean, they're always closed. School's going to be starting again in 2 weeks, and my grandson, who's 15 years old, and I picked him up every day last year, and he said, "This has been going on for a year. What is going on here?" And I said, "Well, they're doing the roads, they're digging and whatever." But my request is that because of the congestion over here, when you come out of Factory Street onto Providence Street, you can't go down by Pratt's, and you've got the school buses. Could we have a little help from the police department at that time, because the light is too slow to get the traffic moving? And also the traffic at Clyde Hill, because now you've got all congestion there, the buses, the kids are crossing the street. And like I said to my grandson, kids don't pay attention. They don't. They're on their phone and they're just dashing out in front of you. So the request is, can the police during school let out be at these 2 lights to try to get the flow of the traffic? It would be for like 20, 25 minutes, and you won't have an accident, a tragic accident, because I watch the kids, how they cross over here at the light and they're not paying attention and they're not pushing the button and looking for the sign to walk. So that's my request, and school's going to be starting in 2 weeks.
And I know Jeff has a contact that he's been working with, because we were talking about the roads for Labor Day, but we were also, I think they're getting to the tail end of this construction, so hopefully.
I hope so. It's been a year, exactly 1 year. My grandson, brought it to my attention himself.
Been 2, because the
I
gas
think it has
company,
been
the
2.
gas company
I
came through
think that's
first,
right.
and then the water company came in second.
And what they do is they fill it in, they pave it, they throw, but then it sinks in, and then you've got, like a sinkhole.
That's
And-
why they don't pave it right away.
Right, yeah.
because of the-
Yeah,
the
no, I
size.
know that, because the next day they go and they dig it up and the road has been blocked for Pike Street, East Main, Brayton Street and Bridge Street. I mean, it's been a year. It's been a year that we've tolerated that.
Yep.
All right, but I'm concerned with the kids.
But
we understand. I think the chief was taking note back there.
Okay,
The boxes might be smart enough to change the programming during school. I can't speak for that particular intersection, but I know that plenty can where you can adjust the light timing
Right.
during certain hours. So we can check into
Yeah,
that.
we've been seeing that on Main Street too, coming up the hill.
A lot of lights and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah,
The wait
it's
time
long.
is just ridiculous.
It's long. Yeah.
Cars are backing up all the way past Diggy's
Yes.
from that red light.
Yes.
I have spoken with the water department about this situation because I had the same concerns you did. And they did say that during school, they'll be stopping construction at 2 o'clock. Okay, I believe school gets out at 1:45. I'm not 100% positive on the time school gets out. I will call them tomorrow and confirm with them again, and I'll send out an email to you guys that way if you get any phone calls, but,
So if they're finishing up at 2, that's too late.
well,
Yeah.
Yes.
they're finishing up at 2 is usually like out of there by 2 o'clock.
1:15.
Oh, sorry.
So I didn't want to say that, you know what I mean, but I will confirm again with them tomorrow, the water company, and send it out to you guys. That way you can get.
Any
the
idea when they're
information.
gonna be done? I know.
So
You will-
they're talking next year.
They're talking
repaving,
summer of 2024.
And that's the repaving. And then we also have the Brayton Street project that's going to affect East Main a little bit also. So we have to get that coordinated. Okay.
I know we have somebody in the crowd I know that wants to speak. I got a letter. I don't know, did everybody receive this letter about the stop signs on Brookside? It might have just been,
No.
okay. Who,
Please.
Yeah, Steve, please.
this is you can bring it up, there's an item that want
Just
to
state your name and address. for the record.
My name is Melissa Ferrara and I live on 73 Maple, but I work on Brookside Ave. I'm here because I had sent a letter to Mark Knott and Jay Messier regarding stop signs on Brookside Ave coming from the post office down towards Doyle's Liquor and
Pull that microphone closer.
I think the specific, I mean, the request, and I talked to you guys a couple times is, and it may have been on an old traffic committee, but I know the request, there's been a few different requests, but I think maybe where the bike path is seems to be
Yeah.
where the worst
It's-
spot.
It's, I mean, where I work, we see numerous accidents, people getting hurt, hit. It's bad.
So-
Bad. People come from the post office and or that street and fly down Brookside from both directions.
But maybe if it's something we could get onto the next, I don't know when the
That
next
was
traffic
forwarded
committee-
to Major
Okay.
Blaze.
All right, so it's already in the works then for the traffic committee meeting, and then the way that process would work, from that point, any recommendations from the traffic committee, whether it's positive or negative, they end up coming back to the council.
Okay, so should I come to the next meeting?
Sure, yeah, I mean,
Well, once we know it's been.
But this is my
approved or
first meeting, so I
disapproved,
don't really know how this even works.
Jay should get,
I can let
once
you-
he finds out what's going on, he can approve or disapprove and tell you it's gonna be on the
I'm
next
sorry,
meeting or
when
whatever.
is the next traffic committee meeting? It's roughly chief, like once a month, once every couple of months, traffic
month.
committee? Once a
Yeah.
month, okay. Okay, yeah, so probably like the following, like the second meeting in September, but once that meeting happens, if you could just kind of let me, even just, I know you sent it to us anyway, but for that specific item, if you could give me an update. All right, thank you.
All right,
And
perfect.
then I'll let you guys know.
Thank you.
Thank you
No
very
problem.
much.
Thank you for sticking around. I know you came here all night to wait to talk about that, so thank you. All right.
John Reed, 62 Andrews Avenue. Just maybe an insight, because I know all the money that was spent on these fields, they're beautiful. Everybody put their heart and soul into them. Just a recommendation. I think you should find out what your total operating budget is to operate that whole complex up there. And from that, figure out your fees, so at least you're gonna cover your expenses going forward. Because when this money dries up, services are gonna dwindle up there. And all the money that's been put in and all the time, I think should be taken care of. And maybe there is a number, nothing against Jeff, I work really good with Jeff. Right? I think somebody should find out what is the total operating expense up there. And from there, figure out how you arrive at your fees. So at least at a minimum, you're covering your expenses. I'm gonna venture to say at this point in time, if you did that, you're not covering your expenses. Okay, so instead of showing some kind of profit to do future things, and maybe the money should go into an account, which it doesn't, instead of going into what they call a black hole, then you can save your investment. That's just a recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, Paul. Bert's waiting patiently. We're sorry. I know you can't see him.
Oh, I think Bert brought his bodyguard tonight.
Yeah.
His enforcer.
Mr. Monahan. Mr. Monahan, I thank you for the appreciation. I did stay on Jeff on top of it, but most of that work for Monterey Drive being done, that goes to the DPW and Jeff staying on top of the paving crew and the people who are doing the work out of there on behalf of Kent County Water Authority. So I'll pass the message on to Jeff as well, and thank you. And as far as the chairs go, my wife's like, I want to go to the meetings, but those chairs kill my back. I just can't do it anymore. So she's had 2 back surgeries. She's like, I can't.
I'll tell you. Yep. Even guys with cushion are complaining about the seats.
Well, as much as we would appreciate that, let's make sure we take the proper steps to make sure that happens. So whatever we need to do legally to allow that to happen. Anybody else is offering to buy the chairs? Anybody else in the audience? We want to give the opportunity for anybody here to buy the chairs as
Why don't
well.
we have bring your own chair? That's a.
Oh, Jesus. But we definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
And the chief appreciates it, so he doesn't have to carry the chair and everything.
I'm sure Mark will do
We
some
will, we'll look
research.
in.
and We'll have some
we'll
conversation.
Mark look into it.
Yeah. Except a cushiony chair.
Each chair says Monahan Realty, right? Thank you, bro.
Right, Paul Villa, 15 Jen Drive. Couple of things real quick. Just want to thank the council for my appointment tonight. All of you, including Mr. Bourget, I understand why you voted against me. Mr. Reed is a well-qualified candidate, as I believe I am. So I appreciate the appointment. One other thing I wanted to just, because I was kind of confused listening about the sewer fees on the planning board, and I don't want you to get caught off guard with it, but we've also instituted a system where in major developments, multiple units, our engineer has to do a flow calculation from the units finally, after many, many years, to make sure that our infrastructure can handle the flow.
And how did that come about? And never.
Yeah, some guy just kept hitting on it for many years, but anyway, the big problem with that was the taxpayers were put on the hook for millions of dollars, which we're still paying for in the Brookfield Plat and Natick, because developers were allowed to come in and keep tying in and not upgrade our system. So I was kind of confused sitting in the back because I understand this is a design build. Unfortunately, we don't have our own engineers. So they present plans to the planning board, and as part of our review, they have to also submit something from the sewer engineer saying that our infrastructure can handle the flow. So consequently, he has to do, or someone in his office has to do a flow calculation to make sure we can do that. So that's one of the expenses that goes along with it that the developer should have to pay for. Now, if it's approved and it's sent out and being built, and it's not being built to specs, now if somebody else has to go out there and review that again, I think that's a separate above that probably the sewer department has to handle on their own. But I just don't want the town to be shortchanged, because I'm sure there's a little bit of work into the calculations, especially in multiple. We're not talking like a single family house, but somewhere where there's 20, 30 units that are going to contribute some substantial flow. There's going to be a calculation there that has to be paid for. So I just wanted to clarify that. So that'll be it for the night. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick. School starts in 2 weeks. Hopefully within a month, we'll actually have a podium here. I'm not going to let that one go. One that we can use, not a prototype. Okay, other items. I noticed Mr. DiMartino's name was up again tonight. I still have a question with regard to his lawsuit involving the town, where he hired a planning board, an attorney who regularly appears before the planning board. Neither of them sought an opinion from the ethics commission. And it seems like, hey, it's gone away. It's not going to appear. No, it's not going to go away. I'm going to keep hammering you guys because this is the way we do business in West Warwick. Mr. Williamson sits there as solicitor. I'm sure he was aware of the potential conflicts of interest, but why weren't the red flags raised? Why didn't he notify you? One more time, way back when we had arguments over billing invoices for legal. Supposedly they were going to be submitted, they would be up to date, etc. Are we current on invoices, or will they be adding up and they'll be 6 months in arrears again? You don't have to answer it. I'm raising that maybe you want to put that on the agenda. Child Inc. buying the Payne Street building. I know we raised that one. Hey, 50 grand. No, I don't think so. You look at the town's assessment, it's $1 million. And I just came across something yesterday. I have to find it. A little known state law that prohibits the sale of donated property to private enterprises, which may prohibit the sale of some acreage. I believe it's in Pawtucket, but that will probably impact West Warwick and any considerations you have for Payne Street. I'm just putting this out there. I don't expect an opinion. I expect someone in this town to do their job. And one more time, the last one has to do with masonry outside the building. When I was going through the budget, yes, we have a mason. Could somebody please fix this building? Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Eric Reed, 62 Andrews Ave. I wrote a thing here, but we'll brief it. So first off, I'm going to take a minute and express my opinion to the DPW director and the town manager. Town manager being Mark Knott. I think Mark was a great choice to manage and run our town, in my opinion. He caught a lot of flack over his contract, but I don't blame him one bit for taking the contract. I have known Mark for many years, actually since he was a bicycle cop in town. He is dedicated to this community, and his dedication to recreation for our youth is unmatched. Since taking the position, he's always willing to take a call, answer a text, and never hesitates to ask a question. In my opinion, having a manager that doesn't claim to know everything, who is willing to seek advice, and who is dedicated to the community outside of his office and departments is what this town needed and needs going forward. As far as Jeff Caldwell goes, Jeff is probably one of the best choices this town council and town manager has made for this department. I have never seen an individual that is not from West Warwick and doesn't reside here either, so vested into our community. I know for a fact that he puts in his time and then some to make our community look as good as it can get. His dedication to his job in the recreation of our town is impeccable and probably will never be duplicated. And there's a lot of stuff from parents, coaches, and other people involved in town sports, but is always professional in how he handles it. So hats off to him. Now I'm going to start to explain why I'm up here. First of all, since the day I was appointed to recreation, I raised this question, and it came up tonight a little bit, is why does this town not have a recreation fund? A recreation fund for the fees from the fields, from the fees from the permits, from the fees from the gazebo, from the fees from all these other things. Why does that money have to go into the town and not into an account? When the monopoly money is gone, there's going to be no money for recreation. Recreation is always the first thing to get cut when the town's going broke. Okay, so if the town needs that money so bad in the general fund, lock the doors tomorrow morning. That's number one. Number two, I worked, and some of you know, very diligently and hard with Jeff and his team with these fields. Okay, my knowledge, my contacts, my everything. Okay, there's irrigation in these fields that is modern, with modern technology. Wi-Fi capabilities can only be controlled by Wi-Fi. Jeff called me a few weeks ago, asked me to come look at some turf. It's like a swamp. The reason for that is the controls are not working the way they are supposed to, because Wi-Fi is not there. It may be there, but it's not working properly, and the controllers cannot be connected. So right now, the systems are running on what they call a cloud base. So it's running on what it was told to do previously to the settings. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if we don't get Wi-Fi set up over there, the turf that we just invested in is going to be junk in 1 year. Next year, from what I saw down there, that sod is in trouble with the fluid that it's got, the diseases that are starting, the fungus that's growing like wildfire, the weeds that are coming in. It gets to a point where you can't control it no more when there's too much water. Got to get the Wi-Fi working, because we went with modern technology. It's got to work. They have control over it once it's working on an app. Right now, it's cloud-based. The other thing is the field lights. Those are Wi-Fi capable. No Wi-Fi, we can't control them. Now, the purpose of putting them up there was so we didn't have to pay people to turn them on, turn them off, turn them on, turn them off, consume energy, all that stuff. Without the Wi-Fi, it doesn't work the way it was designed and installed. Now, David, you have much knowledge as I do probably with Wi-Fi, maybe more. And
I'm gonna tell you.
let me just finish 1 second.
Construction side of it, and Jeff and I have had this discussion. I could put Wi-Fi at the dog pound
Right.
or the town garage. Wi-Fi is not going to reach the girls' field from there.
However,
But there's no cable, there's no phone, there's no
Yeah.
Verizon, there's no Cox
okay,
going all the way down there.
you want me to tell you the solution? The solution is the town uses Verizon for their cell phones, correct?
I don't know.
Or one of these companies, okay? All these companies offer hotspots. We use them. You buy a conduit box, you put that thing in there, you plug it in, there's your Wi-Fi. Pay it through your cell phone bill, you got Wi-Fi at every unit. Okay, you don't have to worry about, you don't have to worry about security with the town hall's Wi-Fi getting breached because it's at the field, none of that stuff. It's strictly a Wi-Fi hotspot. You put it in the building, lock it in, got Wi-Fi. It's that easy. We do it all the time. If we don't have Wi-Fi on new construction with my lighting, I bring a hotspot, put it on the job. It works until the Wi-Fi is brought into the house or into the building. It's simple. It's real simple. But anyways, that's those two things. I wasn't gonna get into this, but I'll stay away from this for now. So tonight, I want to thank some of the town officials, town manager, DPW director again, the assistant director for DPW building department, and in particular, Bob Assel and Joe Argenti, town planner, and the town clerk for their continued support while I currently hold the recreation committee chair position and the town tree warden positions. They've always been valuable assets for myself in the positions I hold, but as of tonight, I gotta ask Madam Clerk, take my name off the planning board. I'm no longer interested. And number two, I'm resigning from both positions as of tonight. I'm done. Because we took two bites at the apple. I'm not available for the third one. I'm not interested in the alternate. You're not interested in me. I don't meet the qualifications. We're good. With me leaving, my Rolodex comes with me. That's the way it works. And this has nothing to do with not being, I did what I had to do. I gave you what you needed. In your minds, whoever's minds, I don't meet the qualifications for the full-time spot. I don't meet the qualifications for anything in this town. And that's it. I resign as of tonight. No more tree warden, no more rec board, not interested in planning. Have a good night.
Any other public comment? Hearing none,
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
all in favor? Opposed?
aye, aye.
Did you want to do that before we close?
Oh, yeah. We'll get you a chair.
So we have new chairs. I had this made for you. I'll see on this side.
Perfect, perfect.
Great. I'll bring it down in every meeting. For you. Fill up the chairs that fit this thing, so just slide over the back.